Next to the hero, named Masato, flew a dryad, a legendary fairy who likes the scent of the main character. Masato Shimindo is a former workaholic who dreams of a quiet life. Himari is a mysterious girl who helps Masato. She says that she also wants to learn how to sow seeds. The hero's name is Masato Shindo. He has been a corporate employee or corporate servant for 2 years now. The guards whispered that he used the dragon to fly and wondered if it was possible to scare the dragon with nanofire. It was a giant dragon. The hero realized that they had misunderstood everything again. He asked if he could get into the city. They gave him a ring saying that it was a magical item for tracking. Once he made a certificate in the guild he could remove it. It was necessary to maintain public order. The hero asked another question, asking if they could see a doll with wings. The guards did not understand what he was talking about, and the hero realized that only he could see the dryads. In the city, the hero said that first he needed an ID. The gatekeepers mentioned the guild. He found himself at the Farmers Guild. The hero thought that who would have thought that this would be the first place that would come across the path of a corporate servant dreaming of a carefree life. It seems like fate. Inside, a girl greeted him and asked how she could help. The hero said he needed to make an ID and asked if he had come to the right place. The girl replied that he had, and as soon as it was ready, he could take off the ring. She asked him if a Farmers Guild membership card would be okay, and he said yes. He thought a membership card would be nice. She handed him a sheet asking him to fill out all the necessary information. While waiting, the hero was glad that it was not necessary to indicate the place of residence. Shindo was called, and the girl gave him a membership card of the farmers. The girl asked if his last name was Shindo and Masato his first name. The hero answered that it was, and asked if it was really that unusual, adding that he was just not from around here. The girl asked if she could call him Masato then. The guy agreed, but he was a little embarrassed when people called him by his first name. The girl said that the registration fee was 1,000 ethers and asked to pay to remove the magic item. The hero agreed, but first he needed to get the required amount. He asked where he could sell the dragon scale. The girl asked where he got such a thing and answered that it could be sold in the Adventurers Guild. He works as a systems engineer on site. The workload is such that not a day goes by without unpaid overtime. Corporate politics are similar to brainwashing. A compliant boss is the perfect recipe for a black company. The guy thanked her and asked her to tell him how much it cost on average for one person to live in this place. The girl replied that it was 30,000 ethers. The cost of dragon scales could not be less than the registration fee, so 1 ether was approximately equal to 1 yen, which was convenient. He would be lucky if it was enough for the first time. Of draconium they contain, which is what needs to be found out. The man behind asked if someone really brought them a dragon scale. The man screamed when he saw that there were 0.005 grams per 1 millimeter, considering it a joke. He shouted that the amount of draconium contained depended on the rank of the dragon, and only an ancient one could have it. The hero remembered that the dragon called itself a divine scarlet dragon. He asked the man if it was a little. The man shouted that it was too much. They decided that the scales would be worth 8.1 million ether. The hero returned to the Farmers Guild to pay the commission and discuss the purchase of the land. Now he could take off the ring. The girl said that they provide such services. She said that buying land is not something that can be done overnight. Renting a 1-hectare plot of land would cost 54,000 ether per year, while buying the same plot would cost 900,000 ether and usually starts with renting. The hero found it very tempting. If he chose to rent, he would have more space for planting. He said that he would rent 1 hectare. Then the girl suggested deciding on the plot. Considering the season, the girl recommended the plot to him. The guy decided that he would start by planting tomatoes and soybeans, which he had grown in elementary school. The girl laid out the purchases in front of him, saying that he owed 220,000 ether. The girl asked him if he was a traveler and that it would be difficult for one person to manage such a field. He works in the company time after time until he faints. His boss yelled at him because the hero was in the hospital again, and for the 3rd time he said that his attitude to work was terrible. Outside the company there was bullying because of forced absences due to health reasons. The guy replied that everything was fine because he had an assistant. By the time he had sorted everything out, including housing, it was already dark. He decided to start farming tomorrow. He thought that in just half a day he had come closer to the life he dreamed of. The next morning, he said that he had gone a little far from the city, but that it would be easier to call the dragon. A voice came from the sky that he was there. The hero looked at the status and clicked on the button, wondering if it would help him see it. He used enhanced vision. The dragon wished him a good morning. The dragon said that the hero activated invisibility for him with the help of the dryad, and this magic is simply incredible. He was able to fly to this place without anyone noticing. The hero was glad that everything worked and asked if the dragon would give him a ride. The hero, using illumination, pointed the dragon to the area and asked the dragon to scatter something and then loosen the earth. The hero saw a dragon version of the vault. Last night, the hero asked the dragon to make him wood ash, which helps regulate acidity. The dryad said it was the best ash she had ever seen. The hero asked her what she meant. The dryad told him that dragon dung is full of nutrients, so the harvest will grow just right. The hero didn't know about that. When the dragon finished, the hero asked him to make furrows. The dragon asked about the furrows and asked if they were something like waves in the fields and asked to trust him. Seeing that he released his claws, the hero realized that he would use them. Seeing them in action, the hero said that it was perfect. The hero was surprised that even the huge body did not prevent the dragon from doing such delicate work. He must have an extremely high dexterity indicator. The hero was glad that he came to this world and met him. The hero suggested taking a break for a snack. It was the only company that offered him a job, so he had to fight desperately for his place. But the hero was already losing the meaning of life. He wondered if he should just fall asleep. The dragon asked why they didn't introduce themselves, since he didn't like it when his species name was used when addressing him. The hero admitted honestly that he had learned his name when he was putting his scales away in storage and asked if he was a celestial scarlet dragon. The dragon said that it was, but he was embarrassed when they said that, so he asked to give him another good name. The hero thought about what was the point in introducing himself and then coming up with another name, but agreed. Masato suggested the names Dora or Amona, but the dragon objected, saying that since she was a girl, she wanted something cute. Masato only now found out that she was a girl and tried to remember what female names there were since Iman really wasn't suitable for a girl. He asked what about Himari's name. The dragon said it sounded unusual, but she liked it. She asked the hero's name and he replied that he was Masato. Shindo, but she could just call him Masato. After that, they started planting the seeds. Masato remembered that he had unlimited dexterity. He wondered if the seeds would line up if he just threw them carelessly. He threw them as an example. The seeds actually lined up and it turned out to be easy. The dragon was surprised and asked what kind of throwing technique this was because the seeds flew in a very strange trajectory and, if you look closely, they all stuck into the ground about 2 centimeters. Himari asked how the horse had mastered such a mysterious skill. The hero mentally apologized for hurting her pride. He said that now all that was left was to water it. The dryads asked to entrust it to them so that the horses could call for rain. Rain was summoned, and the hero saw clear clouds, saying that it seemed to be a skill that could analyze such mysterious phenomena. He used the evaluation, and the system showed that it was the blessed dryad rain cloud that appeared when a dryad prayed. It increased the characteristics of plants and products. The hero considered this an incredible ability. The hero remembered that he had one more thing to do today and stood up from his chair, his daily task that he had to do. He took the watering can and went to the plant. Masato thanked Himari and the dryads and told the dragon that she could return, but asked to call if she needed anything. The hero only had to wait for the harvest to ripen. Farming was going well, and he liked life in this world where he could live at his own pace. There was only one thing that bothered him. He wanted to eat Japanese food, and anything would do. In the grocery stores of this world, there is no soy sauce, no vinegar, no miso or mirin, not even rice. If the hero had soybeans, he could make soy sauce and miso, but if he only makes do with what he has on hand, there was one option that he remembered. A huge boar rushed towards the hero, but he kicked it away. Masato shouted to the dragon if she had advised him to gather wild vegetables on this mountain. Himari replied that she had thought Masato would have no problem dealing with wild boars and other creatures and did not think it was worth mentioning. He came to this mountain for ingredients for spicy egg custard. There were no problems with eggs, they could be bought at the store, but for vegetables and mushrooms he had to go to the mountains. That's why he asked Himari to give them to him. The hero asked if it would be possible to cook boar meat. Off to the side, the hero saw mitsuba and hirateki mushrooms. Mitsuba is Japanese wild parsley used in shawani mushi. Hirateki is oyster mushroom, a mushroom popular with mushroom lovers for its chicken-like texture. The hero thought this was a good start. He was called to the side. Himari called him, shouting that she had found some delicious mushrooms, and when he looked, he saw a fly agaric, a poisonous mushroom that contains a large amount of toxins such as ibotenic acid and muscimol. The hero said that it was a fly agaric, a fairly well-known poisonous mushroom. The dragon was surprised, but said not to worry. Only thanks to his hobby, the hero continued to move forward. Why does he do this? She said that there would be no problems with its vitality, and the fly agaric has a much richer taste. The fly agaric does contain poisonous substances, one of which is ibotenic acid. They say its umami is 10 times stronger than the usual umami component, glutamic acid. Some connoisseurs bite off a piece to enjoy the taste and then spit it out. If you do not take into account the fact that it is poisonous, this is the best product. The hero decided to go ahead and collect some. The dryad also found something. In front of the guy was a yuzu, a Japanese lemon known for its refreshing aroma. It was a great topping for chawanmushi. The hero said that now they had everything they needed and could go back. Himari asked if he was going to cook something out of all of this and said that she wanted to try it too. Once home, the guy started cooking. In front of him was already processed wild boar meat, hirotake mushrooms, fly agaric, dressing, eggs, yuzu, and mitsuba. First, he broke the eggs and prepared 3 times the amount of dashi broth. The guy used advanced alchemy and mixed the seasoning he had created with the skill with water. He combined the eggs and dashi broth and used a spoon to pop the air bubbles to give the dish a nice texture. In his first year at the company, he was completely exhausted when he heard a screen talking about a comfortable and self-sufficient lifestyle. On the screen, people were picking fruits. He placed the meat and mushrooms in bowls and poured 8 out of 10 of the egg mixture over them. Since there is no steamer in this world, he replaced it with a simple frying pan, poured water into it, and placed the bowls in it, then put it on the fire. There was no aluminum foil either, so he used barrier magic instead. 10 minutes later, the guy took it off the fire and tilted the chawan and looked at it to see if it was ready, because if the contents didn't boil over, it meant the dish was ready. Finally, he added the mitsuba and stuck a slice of yuzu on the edge of the bowl. Masato announced that the chawanmushi was ready. He went outside shouting to Himari that he was done. He asked the dragon how she would eat. It would be difficult for such a huge dragon. Himari asked to give her a minute. The dragon's paw began to transform into a human hand. A girl appeared in front of the hero. She asked Masato how he was and explained about this magic of turning into a human. He was surprised that even this was possible and now they would be able to eat together. They moved towards the table. They wished each other bon appetit. Enchanted by the picture of that life, he planted a vegetable garden at home to at least partially realize himself. The hero said that 2 days ago one fruit should have finally ripened. The girl was about to start eating, but the guy stopped her, saying that first, to make it tastier, she needed to squeeze a lemon. The boys really liked the taste. Masato noticed that the mitsuba had a nice crunch and the texture of the hitarake was just amazing. The girl said that it was very tender. This was exactly what the hero was missing. Now he decided to try the fly agaric. After eating the mushroom, he froze. He didn't understand what it was. He had never eaten anything with such a strong umami. That's why some mushroom pickers became addicted to poisonous mushrooms. The hero used the detox skill because, thanks to magic, and they can now enjoy them, this is one of the pluses of this world. He looked at the girl and wondered if he was really harmless to her. When they finished eating, the girl said that she didn't know that he could cook such a delicious dish. Masato asked if she wanted more, and she said, sure, if he made more. She asked him to put some in his storage for her and she would be happy. The guy promised to do so next time. The boy watched the dragon fly away and thought that when it comes to food in this world, it is worth showing a little ingenuity and you can get even more pleasure from it. The next day, after preparing shavanshie, a guy came to a gardening goods store. For the last 2 days, he had done nothing but make shavanshi and water the crops, so he decided to stroll around the shops. He noticed the pokes and said that he would need them in the future, but they were a bit pricey. He sat down by the plant, thinking that today he could already collect the first harvest. He wondered what it would taste like. Something surprised him. He reasoned that, given the size of the field, they would cost a pretty penny, but if he made them himself, he would save a lot. Someone called out to him from the side and it turned out to be Carol from the Farmers Guild. The guy thanked her for the last time and asked what she was doing in this place. She said that today was the day off at the guild, so she came to do some shopping. She asked if he minded her showing him around the store because she wanted him to achieve good results. He asked if she was sure and she said yes. The guy thought that this world was full of surprises and that he didn't know much. The girl offered him some goods. There was a barrier against strangers, you wouldn't have to weed with it, and a sprinkler that was convenient for watering a large area. The hero, after thinking it over, decided that the Dryad's rain would be enough for him. He apologized to the girl and said that he could control the clouds. She froze. He said this because others do not see Dryads, and it was necessary to explain this to Katko. He saw liquid fertilizer on the shelf and asked what it was. He did not understand where in this world such a thing came from. At the current level of industrial development, the Haber-Bosch process had not yet been invented. He did not understand how it was made at all. The girl behind him saw that he was surprised by the liquid fertilizer. She said that it is not made, it drops in dungeons. The guy was shocked to hear about dungeons. He was surprised that you can get something like that there. The girl said that there are also growth enhancers that speed up the ripening of the crop. With the help of he will speed up the growth of the crop on 1 acre by 5 days. Seeing him acting strangely, she asked him what was wrong, and he replied that he was thinking about instant harvest mouth. She said that growth enhancers are used to make everything ripen at the same time for easier harvesting. The guy asked if it was too expensive for such. 1 can of 5,000 ethers, the economy is limited. He looked at the fruit and was surprised because there was something wrong with the tomato. She replied that if we talk about instant growth, then in reality only wealthy farms can afford to buy growth enhancers and make a profit. She remembered that he had somehow obtained dragon scales, which meant he could also get the amplifiers himself in the dungeon. Inside the dungeon, it was dark and foggy. The guy got hold of a power-enhancing sharpening. He said that he only had 10 mana and should focus on physical attacks, but he didn't know how far he had to go to get the growth booster he needed. Himari walked up to him asking why he called her to the dungeon because she thought that he alone would be enough. The guy said that it was because if she figured out the enemies of her level, then he would be able to hunt calmly avoiding them. The girl finally realized that she was here as a guide. He asked Himari if there were any powerful monsters on the floor they were on that they should avoid. The girl reminded him that she was, in fact, a dragon. He replied that since she had no one to fear, they would go deeper into the dungeon, but for now, he decided to try out one skill. The system asked him to provide instructions for what he wanted to build. The guy thought that an elevator would be the most convenient. The system, having read his thoughts, responded that the goal was clear and began to recreate. A strong shaking began. Himari shouted that something was rising from the ground. An elevator appeared in front of them. She wanted to learn how to sew just like Masato, who throws seeds and plants with super control. The hero threw the seeds into the air. The hero assumed that she was sick, and the main thing was that she did not infect the others. He threw her into his mouth and swallowed. Masato used his high-level architecture skill and told the girl that he had created an elevator, but later corrected himself by calling it an elevator. She asked why he was changing the dungeon structure so casually. They went deeper until they encountered enemies they could defeat. Floor 80 of the dungeon. Masato asked Himari if the beast was stronger than her, and she said no. She said that if you attack this monster while it is sleeping, the chance is 1 in 100. But the hero has already defeated the monster at this time, and a card fell out of it. The girl shouted that the monsters were falling as if mown down and asked if it was his doing. He replied that he was simply using their weak points. He looked at the map, he got a card for transportation using wyverns, which gave the opportunity to summon several with a fairly spacious space and 850 times faster than transportation. Himari said that the same monsters drop the same items, so if he wanted something different, he had to switch to others. Just then, a crocodile appeared near them. The guy immediately disappeared. The girl shouted that it was too early. A perfect vinyl house fell out of the crocodile. Its area is only 4 square meters, but in it you can create an ideal environment for any plant and nothing else, including mold, can grow there. The guy was pleasantly surprised by this find, and the girl froze. She asked if they could grow alhidake there. The guy understood from the name that it was a mushroom. The girl said that alhidake is the raw material for a medicine for the disease of white magicians, which can only be cured with a special potion. It is one of the 5 deadly diseases. Himari told her that her mother suffers from this disease and has about 300 years to live. Himari almost gave up hope. The girl said that if she grew alhidaka mushrooms, she would be able to save her mother. The guy agreed and promised to try to grow them as soon as possible. He grabbed his mouth, wondering if he was a fool. He unconsciously threw it into his mouth and did not understand what he was thinking. His eyes went dim. Even if it was harmful to the body, he did not understand how the effect could be so instantaneous. The guy reminded that for this he needed to find a growth enhancer and specified whether she had spores of these mushrooms. The dragon said that they are everywhere, it's just difficult to grow them. The guy realized that these are botulism bacteria. Although they are widespread, only 1 gram of botulism bacteria contains about 1 million doses that are lethal to humans. And so their conquest of the dungeon continued. A monster in the shape of a chest was flying towards them. The hero cut it with ease. The monster dropped a duplication card, which can be used to duplicate any item obtained in the dungeon. Himari said that the monster they just defeated should be the last one on the floor. The guy asked if this meant that there was no growth enhancer there, so if they want to get it, they need to go deeper. They arrived at the 81st floor of the dungeon. The guy said that they had no choice but to go up to more dangerous floors. A snake appeared in front of them, and by cutting it, the hero received what he wanted. Masato couldn't believe his eyes. In front of him was a growth enhancer that accelerated growth for 3 months, and the acceleration period could be adjusted by dilution. The interval was 4 days. He said it was better than what he had seen in the shop, and that the harvest in the field could be collected all at once. The girl shouted at him to look up. There was a glass lizard there. Masato asked Himari about the lizard's special features. She said that it can form growths on its body and throw glass shards in an explosive discharge, so it is very dangerous. His consciousness was fading. The hero asked if he should attack first then. He thought about how the blade couldn't cut glass, but would he be able to defeat her then? He rushed into battle, realizing that he simply had no other choice. He did it. Himari proudly said that she expected it from him, and the sharpness of the blade had nothing to do with it. He did not understand what she was proud of. Crystal shoes fell out of the lizard for life, turning their owner into a beautiful lady, and if a man puts them on, she will become a girl. The hero thought it was useless and said that they were going back. The girl asked if he really didn't want to continue, and he replied that he didn't want to become a real adventurer. He said goodbye to Himari, and she asked him to call her when he used the vinyl house. A little later, the hero was walking through the city and decided to sell those shoes before he returned to the field. How good it was that he could sell unnecessary items, that's what he thought. He entered the Adventurers Guild. Even the girl greeted him again, recognizing him as the man who had brought them the dragon scale the other day. She looked at the shoes and said that she felt that it would be something incredible and she wouldn't be surprised even if it was the legendary Instant Cinderella Shine. She went into the room to evaluate, and after a while there was a lively cry. She ran to him saying that this is a copy of the Instant Gloss of Cinderella of the highest quality. This item is able to affect the relationship between the highest nobles and the royal family. She asked where he got them, and he answered that on the 81st floor. She asked again, and he repeated. She used a lie detector and was surprised to find it was true. He asked why she thought he was lying. A man burst into the room, hearing about the 81st floor. He asked if the hero had brought items from the depths of the dungeon and said that a report had just come in that an unknown structure had appeared in the dungeon. He asked if the hero knew anything about it. He opened his eyes lying on the grass. He stood up and looked around asking where he was. The guy realized they meant the elevator and explained that moving between floors was problematic, so he created it. The girl shouted that there was nothing unusual in his motives, but what he was doing was simply incomprehensible. The guy asked if it was bad, and if so, he would remove it. The man said he would rather have the elevator available to anyone and asked about the annual license fee of 3 million ether. The hero replied that he was not against it, but it was a very large sum. He asked for the license fee and a payment for the shoes to be transferred through the Farmers Guild. Leaving the guild, the guy sighed, saying how unexpectedly everything turned out, but the funds increased, so he decided to go shopping. He decided to check his overall stats. He said that even though he chose to live a normal life, his stats still grew and his mana points increased greatly, so he no longer had to worry about running out of magic power. He could use it to get to his field. The hero wondered how he could spray the growth enhancer. The dryad said that they would distribute everything evenly and told him to pour it all into the cloud. The hero saw a hole in the cloud. He thanked. When the rain began to water the plants, the hero admired them, saying that they were growing like a fast-forwarded video. When the plant started shaking, the hero used the gravity control skill, saying that he couldn't put any pokes now. He was surprised to see a lot of fruits. He said the tomatoes were fully ripe and it was time to harvest the soybeans, but for now, he had decided to harvest only half. The hero called on the dryads to begin harvesting. He wondered if it was possible that he had been taken away by an ambulance. He turned to the side. After a while, the hero brought sticks saying that the rest of the tomatoes needed to be tied up. Additional funds appeared so he would spend money on pokes. He asked the dryads if they could tie up each bush separately. Having agreed, the dryads began their work. The hero looked at the jar and read that the interval for using the growth enhancer was 4 days, which meant they would continue in 4 days. He said goodbye to the dryads. And so, after 4 days, they finished harvesting tomatoes and soybeans. A little later in the city, the hero saw in his inventory 29 tons of tomatoes, 892 kilograms of edamame, and 904 kilograms of soybeans. The hero, sitting in the kitchen, said that since there is such an opportunity, you can find out more about them and use the assessment skill, being very surprised. These turned out to be longevity tomatoes, which contain a large amount of a unique anti-aging component. Consuming 100 grams per week will completely prevent aging. Divine black beans contributed to improving vision, and when consuming 100 grams per week will improve vision by 2 times and give skill. The hero started eating the tomato, saying how delicious it was that he couldn't stop. As the rating said, it was an incredible taste. Masato said that if he put them in storage, they would stay fresh, and he decided to keep some for himself and sell the rest to the guild. When he came to the farmers' guild, he showed the goods. The girl was surprised to see a rich harvest. He said that he had 29 tons of tomatoes and 2 tons of beans. The girl was surprised that a newbie had grown so much in just 2 weeks. The guy said that it was all thanks to her, because it was she who told him about the dungeon. A floating status window appeared in front of him. The status showed his name and profession as a farmer. His health points were 10/10, his mana points were 10/10. His strength, vitality, agility, intelligence, and speed were all 5. His skill was Life Reset Pack. He had accepted the fruit of reincarnation. He showed her the amplifier, saying that he found it in the dungeon and it accelerates growth by 3 months. The girl froze and the guy asked if everything was okay. She replied that she didn't understand anything at all and wanted to pretend that she hadn't heard anything. First, she decided to sort out the products. The girl used the sorting telekinesis skill. Seeing this, the guy realized that this was a skill for classifying by species and climbed into the system, remembering that it seemed he could also use one. At this time, the girl was surprised that there was not a single affected or defective fruit. The guy remembered that he wanted to ask about something. He asked if there were tomatoes that give eternal youth and black beans that improve eyesight, if they were sold at the market. The girl seemed to feel sick. She fainted while he was calling her. She got up and went to call the appraiser, and the guy suggested that it would be better to call the doctor. After a while, the girl returned with the old man, who asked if the legendary vegetables were really in front of him. The boy thought to himself that calling them legendary vegetables was a bit of an exaggeration. Seeing what kind of vegetables were in front of him, the old man shook the hero by the shoulders and asked how in this world something like that could grow, and asked him to tell. The hero replied that he had only sprouted ordinary seeds. Carol confirmed his words, saying that she sold them to him herself. The old man said that in that case there was only one option left, that the legendary fairy dryad had to lend her power. The hero said that perhaps this was the whim of this dryad. Carol asked what he was talking about, because dryads are just fairy tale creatures. The old man said that to think that dryads would help a person is nonsense. Next to him, unnoticed by strangers, was the same fairy tale fairy, but it made sense after all. The blessed rain of the dryad also has a certain effect. He wondered if these were his stats and thought it was nonsense. His profession was a corporate servant, not a farmer, and as for the rest, he had no idea at all, and the last 2 lines confused him. This rain increases the characteristics of the plants. Tomatoes with high lycopene content and soybeans with high isoflavone content were modified by this rain. Carol said that with such a crop, they should contact an exclusive dealer. She explained that exclusive traders sell products of higher quality than general consumer goods, and sell them at a fair price through separate distribution channels. In particular, these tomatoes have a prohibited effect that prolongs life and therefore are considered goods that cannot be mixed with ordinary ones. She also added about the safety of the producer, saying that if everyone knows about the farmer who grew such a valuable crop, it could attract the attention of unpleasant people. Carol concluded that in exchange for paying a substantial commission, the exclusive merchant would make every effort to protect Masato's information. The hero told the dryad that, given his characteristics, there should be no problems, but asked the dryad to tell him immediately if they saw suspicious people near his house. The old man said that he would then report everything to the guildmaster and negotiate with an exclusive merchant who was highly trusted in the guild. Someone was walking towards them. When Carol saw the young man, she called him Cole and said he was the perfect candidate. Cole greeted the hero, saying that he was an exclusive traveling merchant who had the skill of mystification, so the hero could be sure of the success of the deal. The hero asked what kind of mystification it was, and Carol explained that it was the ability to turn into mist and move freely like air. Cole has a younger sister with a special ability. She was hidden from a criminal organization that wanted to use her Sue for their own purposes. Instead, the organization captured and interrogated Cole, but he steadfastly endured everything and did not divulge any information and awakened the skill, and then turned into smoke and escaped silently. The hero was very impressed by the story, and he wanted to help somehow, and he remembered that he had received items that were in demand among distributors. The hero told Cole that he was glad to meet him and introduced himself. He handed him a map, saying that he would give it to him as a token of friendship so that he could use it to facilitate transportation. Cole was shocked. He thought that he was reincarnated or something, and wondered what kind of reincarnation fruit it was since he just ate a sick tomato. Masato decided that it was all just a hallucination. He cried out when he saw the Wyvern transportation map. It was a relic of an ancient civilization, and there were only 5 of them in the world. Cole said that in terms of transportation, it is truly unrivaled, but it is so rare that it is used only in emergency situations. Each instance of its use is recorded in history. After that, they signed a contract and said goodbye to Cole, and in case something happened, the hero sent one dryad with him. The profits would be divided as follows: the hero 75%, Cole 25%, and the guild 5%. The margin is a bit high, but Cole's job involves some risk, so it's reasonable. The hero calls out to Carol asking if she'll sell him wheat seeds. The girl says she'd be happy to, but is the hero in his right mind to ask for wheat at this time of year? The hero, remembering the girl's words already at home, said that with the growth enhancer, the time of year does not matter and he can grow whatever he wants. The guy wanted to cook tempura. He called the dryads Himari over the link, saying that he would tidy up the field, and then he could take on the alhidake mushrooms. Hirami said that she would be right there. The boy didn't understand what to do with the withered plants. The dryad replied that rain would help, but the hero didn't understand what she meant. She told him to look up. When it started to rain, the hero saw that the plants began to melt. It was a decomposing rain cloud of a dryad which appears during the dryad's prayer. The rain from it decomposes all the plants and enriches the soil. With it, compost will not be needed until the next cycle. The hero talked about how incredible the rain was, that with it there would be no need for compost. The dryad was happy to be praised. Finally, Himari arrived. Flying towards him, she said that she saw that he had already finished cleaning the field. He asked if he should put a greenhouse right there. The package in his hand began to shake. He decided that the sick tomato he had eaten must have caused him to hallucinate, and that was the only explanation. Greenhouse opened up right in front of them, causing them to shudder. The guy said that she was more comfortable than he thought and offered to come in. He asked if she had brought the spores of the alhidake mushroom. The girl said that they were lying around everywhere and told him to look at the stone where they were stuck. The guy used the microscope skill and actually saw it. The spores of the alhidake mushroom can tolerate conditions unsuitable for growth. If placed in a room with suitable conditions, the spores will grow and form fruiting bodies. The hero said that they really exist and they just need to grow them. They entered the greenhouse. The system asked him if he wanted to use these pores for cultivation purposes, and he confirmed. The system accepted his answer and began adjusting the environment, asking him to wait. The air around thickened and everything around seemed to be covered in darkness. The hero said it felt like being in a room with poisonous gas at high temperature and pressure. Himara said that these are the conditions for the growth of these mushrooms. Masato said that in order to use the growth enhancer he had to go inside. Himari said that he was certainly at his best in any situation, but where did all this unfounded confidence come from? Masato decided to check what would happen to the barrel and took it and threw it inside the greenhouse. The boys were surprised and screamed when it was simply crushed. He hit his head against a tree and rubbed it, wondering if it might not be a hallucination after all. Maybe it was a coincidence. Afterwards, they watched as the zucchini began to melt due to the high temperature. Himari said that a person would definitely not survive in such an environment. The hero did not understand what specific measures he should take. Himari said that in this case, the auto-healing skill was vital, and since there was no oxygen in that environment, he needed to hold his breath. The hero understood her and used auto-healing. He decided to play it safe by also choosing health blocking, which would prevent his health points from being completely depleted. Masato headed inside while Himari wished him luck behind him. Only after entering did the hero feel ill. He did not understand what it was. The gas instantly destroyed the body, eclipsing even extreme pressure and temperature. The environment inside was completely different from the one outside. The hero wondered if it was because of his support skills and high survivability. He was holding up, but what would have happened if any of them had been missing? He decided that even so, he couldn't let his guard down. The hero understood that he would not be able to hold his breath for long and that he needed to find these spores as soon as possible. He used the microscope skill and finally found the spores. While planting the stone, he thought that he now needed to apply a growth enhancer. The spores of the alhidake mushroom in a suitable environment continue to grow, and once they form fruiting bodies, they become a special medicine for certain diseases. While the guy was thinking about how the booster would speed up growth for 3 months, he looked ahead and noticed that there were other arguments inside. He thought that they must have been on this piece of land originally and decided to grow them as well. He finally came out of the greenhouse and Himari asked if he was okay. When the seeds were in the ground, the dryads gave him 10 points for planting. The hero decided to hit his head against other trees. The hero answered her that he had somehow managed, but everything was fine. He asked how long it would take for the alhidake spores to grow into fertile bodies, and she answered that it would take about 1 year and 3 months. The guy calculated that this was another 4 cycles, in other words, 16 days. The girl didn't understand him at first, and he explained that with the growth enhancer they would be able to harvest in 16 days. The girl was surprised at how fast it was. Masato said with a smile that they might cure her mother sooner than expected. The girl cried with joy. She said she would prepare the rest of the ingredients and wait. The hero agreed and promised that he would definitely make this special medicine and help her mother. Icy dark cave. Meanwhile, the sick dragon lay inside this cave. Himari told Masato that they were already there. It was the coldest of all the seas she knew, the Violin Sea. The guy thanked her and said that since it was so cold, there would definitely be what he was looking for. He was looking for a selection of seafood for tempura. After replenishing the items in the wheat planting dungeon, he decided to gather ingredients for tempura while the alhidake mushroom was growing. The hero said, looking down, that the layer of ice was so thick that he couldn't see any seawater underneath. He jumped off the dragon, deciding to try and hit him. He punched the ice. He thought that perhaps this was not an illusion at all, but what should he do? The dragon was surprised and said that no one in history had ever managed to break the eternal sea ice with such ease. The hero asked why she had brought him to this sea then, and she answered that there was a lot of seafood in this place. Himari said that no one had ever caught a fish from this sea before, but the hero had already disappeared. Suddenly, something big grabbed the hero's body and he looked at it in shock, thinking that it was a squid tentacle. He watched, thinking that it was somehow too big. He used his flying skill to get out of the water. Himari called out to him and was surprised, as was he. The hero said that it was not a bad catch, and since the fish had been caught on the hook, why shouldn't he pull it out? The hero pulled the squid higher into the air. Masato was able to free himself from the monster's tentacles. As he approached the monster, he thought that if he hit the squid at the base of its head, it would paralyze its nervous system, but he wasn't sure if he could do that with such a huge squid. He took off and took aim at the squid. A fairy appeared in front of him, and when he saw her, he screamed. He hit the squid's head between the eyes with the edge of his palm with all his might, and it began to fall. When the squid was almost in the water, the hero used the storage and it fell in. Hisari shouted, asking to wait a minute. She said that after such a blow, he is in a state of pseudo-death, and the storage should accept only dead things. The hero answered that his storage accepted the squid as dead. After all, the definition of death is very ambiguous. The dragon said that even the storage conditions had changed. She was completely defeated by Masato's skill. The hero said that it seemed that with the help of flight it would be possible to emerge from the water and decided to see what fish were there. He plunged. While examining the fish, he saw that among the schools of smelt, horse mackerel could be seen further away. He decided to catch a few but froze with a scream, moving away from the big fish. He was shocked to realize that it was a tuna. It was just in time, so he decided to catch it. He took the sword out of the storage and began to act. Having caught the fish, he looked at it saying that it was a wonderful catch and wanted to go further to catch more fish. He saw a shrimp to the side. He called her a doll-sized girl. He immediately wanted some shrimp for tempura, so he swam on. Finally surfacing, he saw Himari, who said that he looked like he had caught a lot. The hero said that he wanted the fish he had caught to be cleaned and cut up at the market and asked if he would give him a ride. Port Market. The vendor said that unfortunately he couldn't help because their supplies were limited to reliable fishing vessels. The hero replied that since there was nothing to be done, he decided to find out in another place. But he was sharply called out to stop. It was the owner of the shop who told him to show his fish. The men were amazed because they had never seen such a huge carcass before, and the freshness was excellent. The fairy smelled the tree of reincarnation from him. A notification appeared that he had tamed a dryad. The hero heard a voice in his head notifying him of this. He realized that this creature in front of him was called a dryad, and it seemed he had tamed her. The girl said that she was glad to meet them. Something had changed, and the hero friend felt rested. The hero looked at his statistics and saw that all the characteristics had increased by 4 times. If the physical condition and these numbers were connected, then the value should be real. He wondered if he had really been reborn. The girl screamed, calling the others to her and calling it the tree of reincarnation. The guy told her that he was not actually a tree of reincarnation and he just ate that fruit, or rather just an ordinary sick cherry tomato and nothing more. At that moment, a bunch of dryads flew in, talking about how wonderful his snow was. The girl admired, saying that all the seeds were located at an equal distance from each other. No matter how many times she saw it, she never ceased to be amazed and wanted to learn the same. The hero handed her the seeds, saying to try as many as she wanted. She thanked him. They hugged his fingers, saying they were glad to see him. There were many notifications that he was taming dryads one after another. The status window changed, and the hero asked if the numbers he saw in the status window were real. He saw 1.35 e plus 68 there, which meant 1.35 times 10 raised to the power or 1.3.5 uncountably large numbers. He wondered if it was possible that taming one dryad quadrupled all 5 parameters. The hero remembered that the base of the logarithm is 4.620. He tamed 122 dryads, so when multiplied it comes out to a little more than 67. The number 4 raised to the power of 122 gives a 67-digit number. It turns out that the original value 5 multiplied by 4 to the power of 1 actually consists of 68 digits. Now that the hero understood the principle, he wondered what he should do. He said that he wanted to go to where there were people first. For now, he decided to consider all this just an illusion and try to find some clues. He decided to use it, but stopped when he thought that his intelligence was an incalculable large number, in which case if he recklessly used the flight he could be thrown into outer space, and his mana points were only 10 and they could be depleted in outer space. He decided he needed a safer way. The dragon was flying behind him. The dragon struck, and all the dryads flew away. The dryads screamed, and the hero noticed that he didn't seem to be in pain. He didn't understand what just happened. Masato noticed that his claws were chipped. He wanted to attack him from the air from behind and seemed to be hurt more than expected. The hero decided that if he climbed onto the dragon's dog, he would be able to take him to the place where people lived, but he did not know how to negotiate this. The girl threw it the first time, but the seed didn't hit. She tried again, but it still bounced off to the side. It turned out to be 100 times more difficult than she imagined, but it was too early to give up. The dragon was preparing an attack. The hero saw that it wanted to attack him with fire breath. He thought about whether he had any defensive skill and saw a barrier, and then dissipation. He thought that he couldn't let the dragon do this. In theory, with this skill, he could avoid the worst outcome, and all that was left was to try. The hero began to use the dispel skill. The dragon growled, and the dryad translated his words that he said he couldn't believe it. The hero asked her if she understood the language of dragons, and asked her to translate for him that he wanted to negotiate something with him. The girl agreed. The dryad's taming skill, automatic translation, was activated. The hero was surprised. The dragon screamed that it was impossible for a human to neutralize its attack. Now the dragon's words sounded in a language Masato could understand. The hero realized that he could now speak directly to the dragon. He asked the dragon if he could hear him. The dragon was surprised that the man spoke their language. The hero realized that the translation worked both ways. He said that since the dragon understood him, he would like to ask for something and asked if he could fly on it. The hero did not know how to negotiate. He could only ask for help and hoped that the dragon would listen to such a simple request. The dragon replied that let's say the hero understands their language, but who said that he would fulfill his request? He is such a majestic creature as a dragon. The dragon shouted at the hero not to make him laugh and tried to attack again, but the hero used dispel again. The hero replied that such a powerful creature should all the more help those in trouble. The dragon was indignant at helping a simple man. The hero realized that talking would not solve anything, and then realized that he had no choice. He needed to find a suitable skill to make this dragon obey him. He has the right to use force for 2 reasons. Finally, the seed fell into the ground. Firstly, in this situation it can be considered as self-defense, because if he does not do it, the dragon will attack first. Secondly, if he is ignored, it can cause great danger to the city he is heading to. He noticed one skill. Among the fire skills, there was Fire and Terrifier. They probably had the lowest power of all. The hero thought that if he used a more powerful skill to intimidate and ended up frying a dragon or burning a forest to the ground, it would be terrible. He decided to try the weaker one first. Masato told the dragon that if he insisted, he wouldn't stand aside either. The hero used the skill Nanofire. A powerful column of fire rose into the sky. The dragon, seeing this, cried out that this was the legendary explosive Inferno. The hero wondered if this skill was too amazingly powerful for its name. The dragon asked the hero who he was to possess such magic. Masato repeated the dragon's words about the explosive Inferno. He saw that such a skill really existed, but it was written that he did not have enough mana, so he hardly used it by mistake. The hero told the dragon that he used Nanofire and not Explosive Inferno. The dragon shouted that this was an absolute lie. The dragon heard the hero say Nanofire, but he was sure it was Explosive Inferno even if not chant. The hero denied it, saying he didn't even know about such advanced techniques. He needed to think about it. The hero thought that if the dragon was afraid of this particular skill, then this misunderstanding could be turned to his advantage. The dragon laughed, saying that if someone could show such power with just Nanofire, then this world was in great danger. The girl was happy, saying that she had succeeded, although the task was not easy, but it seemed to her that she had something to brag about. The hero took his words back, perhaps passing off simple magic as legendary is a cowardly act. At some point, the dragon even became too polite with him, and now the hero regrets that he scared him like that, but if he can fly on it, then it will not have been in vain. The hero asked the dragon if he would take him with him. The dragon said that he would do so with all his heart. The hero said that if he got tired from the long flight, he shouldn't force himself to continue. The dragon replied that he underestimated him because of his strange abilities. He could cross the continent in half a day. The hero realized that he flew at about the speed of a passenger plane quite decently. Finally, the hero sat on the dragon and went forward. The scales that the guy was holding onto came off. He began to fall to the ground. The hero ended up on the ground, saying that thanks to his stats he didn't feel any pain. Was it karma? The dragon in the sky apologized. The dragon was talking about how it was so far away that his scales had peeled off when he was holding on to them. The hero asked him not to shake his head like that because he was scattering the dryads. The dragon apologized again. The hero asked if it was normal that the scales had fallen off. The dragon replied that it was fine, considering that they had peeled off because of the shockwave and would have fallen off soon anyway. This was a relief to the hero. The dragon presented it to the hero as an apology because, apparently, in the human world, dragon scales are very valuable. The hero also seemed to have heard something about this. If it is not useful, he will simply sell it. The hero saw it in the list of skills. He opened the storage. The hero said that if she was happy, then everything was fine. He began to collect the unsuccessfully planted seeds. A notification popped up that the divine scarlet dragon scales had been put into storage, and by saying storage, the hero would be able to view and retrieve the items. Now they could go again. They took off. The hero shouted when he saw a farm on the outskirts. Perhaps in this world he will be able to live the life he dreamed of. For some reason he had this feeling. The hero asked the dragon if he could circle in the sky above the city below them, and he replied that no problem. He said that it was better not to rush in there, so he asked to land at the gate. Masato thanked the dragon for helping him out. The dragon said that the hero could call him at any time. The hero thanked him for the offer, but he could not contact him. The dryad said that she could stay with the dragon. The hero asked if he could maintain contact over a distance, and she replied that it was so. Then the hero told her to go with the dragon, and the rest would go with him. The dryads obeyed him. The hero sat on the couch sighing, talking about how it had been another exhausting day. Somehow he had managed to finish work at 2 a.m. He wondered if the next 40 years or so would continue in the same vein. The hero asked the dryad to convey his messages to the dragon. They said goodbye, and the dragon told the hero not to be shy and to call him at any time. The hero replied that he relied on him. The dragon flew away, and the rest went to the city. The dryad asked the dragon if this was his house, and he replied that it was, but before entering he also wanted to try something. The dryad asked him again, and he replied that she just needed to wait, and she would see. He flew into the sky. The dragon turned into a girl. She asked the dryad how she felt about the magic of turning into a human. The guard shouted if it was a dragon flying away, and the second added saying that he thought he would die. The hero thought that they had misunderstood everything. He apologized to the guys saying that he wanted to enter the city. The guard asked him to show his family coat of arms. The hero did not understand what he wanted, and the guard explained that it was a coat of arms that nobles have. Then the hero said that he was not a nobleman, and the guards were surprised. The guard said that when the hero chased away the dragon, his speech was noble, and asked if the hero could be a knight of a nobleman or something like that. The hero was surprised that his speech was noble. Maybe it's because of the automatic translation. If polite speech turns into noble, then there is a way out. He fixed it. It speaks less noble now. The guard said that now his speech sounds simpler. The hero felt a little awkward speaking so casually, but it was better than being taken for a nobleman. The hero added that the dragon did not pose much of a danger since he had scared it with nanofire. The guards understood why he had flown in on it. The man with the mustache tells the hero that they don't accept goods from anyone except their regular suppliers. But the quality of his fish exceeds all their standards. He says that if the guy gives up some, they will agree to process the fish. On this clear day, they begin work on the kraken. Masato and Himari prepare the appetizer. First, they make a batter from eggs, cold water, and flour. Then they dip smelt, horse mackerel, tuna, shrimp, kraken, and store-bought sweet potatoes into the batter. Then, the guy heats up the oil and throws a drop of batter in with his hands. You should get beautiful flowers. The edamame separately, with Hiyori and Dryad watching in awe. The guy sets the table and puts as much sashimi on the plate as they can eat. Once everything is fried and arranged, and the soy sauce is poured, Masato makes the finishing touches. He sprays the food with a spirit medium so that the spirits can eat with them. The guy announces that the food is ready, and Himari is amazed and says that she has never seen anything like it. Everyone wishes each other bon appétit before the meal. Everyone, including the dryads, takes a piece and eats it. Masato admires the taste of the sashimi and thinks it is superior to any other he has ever tasted. Having finished with the fish and squid, they present the wonderful cut goods, and the man says that the smelt and horse mackerel will be free, for which Masato thanks him. Himari praises the soy sauce, saying it is salty and sweet and very tasty, and also goes perfectly with sliced raw fish. She calls it moldy koji infusion and says it's delicious. The guy replies that it's soy sauce and asks to call a spade a spade. Masato tries the kraken tempura and is very satisfied with the taste. The guy exclaims that both the tempura and the sashimi turned out delicious. The girl is happy that she tried such exquisite dishes that she never dreamed of. Masato notes that there are some things they haven't tried yet, and Himari looks at him questioningly. He picks up a bottle of beer and says he's been waiting for this for a long time, pouring the drink into glasses and placing the edamame next to it. Himari says in surprise that it's the first time she's seen such a foamy drink. Masato explains that this beer is an alcoholic drink and says that eating edamame with it tastes even better. The girl takes a sip and her eyes widen. Her eyes sparkle, and she praises the drink, saying it is delicious and very refreshing. The boy says that both the taste and smell are excellent, thanks to the hops she picked. Himari says that she can pick more, and he asks her to do so because he wants to plant some in the field. The merchants wave goodbye to him. The boy tells Himari that he has one more thing to do. He asks her to take him to the nearest sea. She, not understanding the reason, agrees. They try edamame, and the guy says that its delicate taste is simply delicious. The girl is also pleased, noting that it melts on the tongue and she can't stop eating it. Masato reflects on the satisfaction that comes from eating good food and drinking quality beer, and is glad that he built and supplied the factory. He thinks that even after being transported to another world, he can still enjoy all of this. The boy apologizes to Himari, saying that he is going to bed. The hero collapses into bed, pulling the blanket over himself, and Himari is amazed at how effectively he did it. As he falls asleep, the guy thinks that such a life seemed unthinkable when he was a corporate employee, but now it is pure bliss. The girl tries to call him. In the morning, the guy stretches, saying that he had a great rest and that, thanks to the high vitamin content in beer, he doesn't have a hangover. He suggests that even if he had a headache, he could use healing and is happy about how convenient this world is. He then notices that Himari is nowhere to be seen. The dryad tells him that Himari left during the night. She tried to call him, but he was already fast asleep. The girl noticed the dirty dishes. She thanked him for the tasty treat and cleaned up with a cleansing spell. Then she flew off to gather more hops. The dryad handed them all to the boy. He mentally notes that Himari has been working the entire time without even sleeping, and assumes that it is not a problem for her because she is a dragon. She transforms into a dragon and carries Masato to the seashore. They hover over the water. The guy says that this is what he needs. She asks him why they are here. He notices the bottle of beer. The guy thinks that if the girl was so enthusiastic about beer, then she thought it was delicious, and reasons that maybe soy sauce and beer will be treated better in this world than he thought. The hero decides to try to sell them to the guild along with the harvest. The girl from the Farmers Guild seriously says that they need to talk about something and asks to follow her. The hero nervously agrees. They walk away, and Masato asks what she wanted to talk to him about. The girl dumps a pile of gold coins in front of him. She explains that they are from the Adventurers Guild and that the recipients named Himari, saying that they found a buyer for Cinderella's instant gloss. The girl says the price was 27.4 million ether, and the guy freezes in shock, asking again. She screams that she has never seen so much money in her life and asks what he sold. He says the instant Cinderella gloss he sold is likely in demand by royalty and nobles. He says he didn't want to give out personal information, so he asked for the money to be sent through farmers. Masato finds it burdensome to deal with the nobles, with their rules and restrictions, and he was sure that the Farmers Guild would maintain confidentiality. The girl is surprised by his answer. She now understands how the money got there and admits she's a little surprised, but glad he trusts their guild. He starts to speak and raises his hand. The guy says he came to sell the goods. The girl is amazed that the harvest is ripe and invites him to the warehouse, saying that she will call their appraiser. An elderly man with a beard casts a spell in front of the wheat, assessing it, marveling that even diabetics can eat it, and noting that he has never seen anything like it. He and the girl exchange glances. The man asks her if she really sold him ordinary seeds. The girl indignantly says that she had nothing to do with it and counters by asking if they even have such special seeds. They continue to argue. The man suggests that the only explanation for this is that the dryads really do exist and continue to share their power with Masato. The girl asks if they will have to sell everything through exclusive merchants again, because for nobles with diabetes, this is a revolutionary product. The man notes that they need to keep a close eye on this product until Cole returns. At this point, the guy notes that he has something for Cole. He shows some cards in his hand, explaining that he has given him one before and that he wants him to use them without restrictions. The girl and the man freeze. They start to nervously talk about how these are the 9 legendary wyvern transportation cards, and they need to lock them in the most secure storage. Masato points out that they can get as many as they want in the dungeon. He apologizes for the inconvenience and says that in addition to this, he also brought products made from his harvest and invites them to try and say whether they can be sold. The girl and the man are surprised that he makes food and say they want to try it. They sit down at the table and the guy suggests they try the dressing first by dipping some sliced fish fillets into it. He creates a portal above the water's surface and uses the advanced alchemy spell. The guy places a plate of soy sauce and sashimi in front of them. The girl says she looks a little weird but notes the delicious salty sweet smell. The man notices something about the dressing. He sees that this sauce has a restorative effect on the body. The girl says that it can be considered healthy food. The man confirms and adds that nothing else was expected from Masato's product, and the guy did not even know about these properties. The guy asks them to try it, and they eat it one by one, dipping it in the dressing. The girl exclaims that the sauce is very tasty when combined with raw fish. She says that oregano and citric acid were the main seasonings, but now it is the era of soy sauce. The man agrees that the taste is revolutionary. Masato is pleased because sashimi requires soy sauce. The man asks about the squid. The guy says it's a kraken from the Violin Sea. The man and the girl are shocked to realize it's a catastrophic level monster. Masato says he plans to catch more because it's delicious. The man nervously remarks that the squid is just food to him. The girl agrees that it's delicious. The appraiser says they're right and that it's great to be young. The guy thinks he's hit the soy sauce jackpot and offers them a beer. The man sees that it contains a substance that slows down aging and that taking it regularly can prolong life. He regrets that he did not find this drink earlier. To avoid affecting his work, the guy suggests recovery with the help of detox. He and the girl take a sip of the drink. Himari doesn't understand what he's up to this time. Dust-like balls start rising from the sea. She realizes what he's doing. The evaluator notes that it feels very pleasant on the tongue and asks what kind of drink it is, because he has never tried anything like it. The girl notices that this cool drink is very refreshing, which is quite rare, and the guy realizes that there are no refrigerators in this world. The girl thanks Masato for the treat and shares that she was lucky to try a drink like the one from the restaurant. The man adds that his job has its advantages. The guy is glad that they liked everything. She asks the guy how he managed to make soy sauce. He says that both the beer and the sauce were fermented with microorganisms, which amazes these people. They pounce on him with questions about whether he's discovered a new species and praises like whether the guy has any flaws at all. Masato says they're exaggerating. The girl asks about the consequences of revealing the secret, but he replies that he did not intend to monopolize production. Masato asks when Cole will return. They tell him that it won't be earlier than 3 weeks. The guy says that he will sell only the wheat for now and make more sauce and beer, which he will bring next time. The girl agrees. The guy also asks to buy wheat seeds and soybeans, to which the girl responds positively. After a while, the guy walks down the street and thinks that since he has money, he needs to pay off the loan. He enters a real estate agency and greets the salesgirl. She recognizes him and asks why he came. The guy replies that it's to pay off the loan, and the girl, relieved and almost crying, says that she's happy about it. She exclaims that the balls are salt. Masato confirms her words and asks what's wrong with that. She shares that keeping the wyvern card is a lot of stress. Masato is surprised by how much. After a while, he walks down the street and tells the dryad that the land with the plant is now rightfully his. She asks what he will do now. He says that he wants to plant the purchased seeds and asks her for help. The dryad agrees. Already near the prepared ground, he scatters the seeds with the help of dexterity. The dryads are surprised that the wheat and soybeans are spread evenly across the ground. The guy takes a jar of growth-promoting solution. The dryads understand without words that it is time for the growth-promoting rain and tell you to trust them, creating rain directly over the garden bed. He tells them that that's all for today and suggests that they go out to dinner, which the little spirits are very happy about. Night falls and the moon illuminates the city. The guy returns home, assessing his purchases and reasoning that he bought meat and garlic, and at home he has tomatoes and wheat flour so he can cook something. He enters the house, loudly announcing this, but the dryad shushes him to be quiet, and he goes deeper to understand the reason. He sees Himari sleeping on the couch. She lies peacefully with her eyes closed. She is surprised that the guy used alchemy just to save on salt. The hero replies that he has no other choice since he does not feel safe with the money he has. The guy is finally convinced that she forced herself. He thinks she's an untrained fighter and he, a former corporate slave, wouldn't want to create an exploitative work environment. He whispers to Dryad that they will not wake her and will quietly prepare the food. She agrees. Masato says that today they will make tomato paste without water. Dryad is surprised, but he promises that she will see everything. First he prepares a dry mixture of flour and salt and a liquid mixture of water, eggs, and olive oil, and then kneads the dough. Then he uses time acceleration to avoid having to wait 2 hours for it to sit. Then the guy rolls out the dough and cuts it into narrow strips. Using advanced alchemy, he creates a pressure cooker and puts in chopped garlic, a whole tomato, and the paste, then turns it on. He mentally notes that pasta without water is cooked in the ingredient's own juices, so there is no need to pre-boil it. This way the noodles will be completely soaked in tomato. At this time, Himari wakes up and sees a guy cooking who is standing with his back to her. She looks at him in delight, jumps up and wishes him good morning. He gets scared, asking her why she woke up so suddenly. She says happily that she smelled something delicious and couldn't help but wake up from it. Masato looks at her with a smile. She reproachfully remarks that this is not a skill to be used so casually. 2 small creatures, similar to humans, are floating in the air. One has a sprout on its head and the other a lotus. They look thoughtful. The boy apologizes for making her go get hops in the middle of the night. She replies that everything is fine and she just needed some sleep. The girl proudly informs that, apart from short naps, dragons need a full night's sleep no more than once a year. He is glad that everything is as she says and thinks that he worried in vain. Masato asks her to sit down because the food should be ready by now, and she happily obeys. The guy divides the pasta between 3 plates. He sprinkles cheese and herbs on top and sprays a spirit medium. After that, the guy wishes him a pleasant appetite, but the girl is already starting to eat. Himari praises the dish enthusiastically, noting that everything is infused with tomato flavor. The guy, happily eating noodles, says that he changed the cooking method so the noodles turned out more elastic. While he eats, the thought comes to him that pressure cookers do not exist in this world and they can also be sold. The three of them dine quietly. At the end of the meal, the girl thanks him for the food. Masato suggests making edamame for their evening drink. She says it sounds great. She swears that everything Masato grows in the fields is incredibly delicious. At this point, the guy remembers something related to this. He asks if she will go there with him next time. The guy says that the alhadike mushroom, a miracle cure for an incurable disease, must fully ripen. The man says that if the boy gives enough, they will even waive the fee. The boy says he will be grateful. The merchant suggests that the fish was caught in an unusual place. She starts talking about how it doesn't matter how necessary the ingredients are, and the guy remembers something related to that. Himari runs to the fields and approaches Masato, asking if the alhadeki mushroom has really grown. But she doesn't have time to finish because she notices that the guy is nowhere to be found. She calls him and he answers. The girl and the dryad look at the place from which he speaks, amazed. Masato ends up pinned to the wall of the greenhouse by a large number of koji that kept multiplying, and the girl exclaims that he is stuck in the greenhouse. She takes him out and asks him what he's doing. The guy justifies himself by saying that he wanted to increase the production of soy sauce. He finally gets to his feet, apologizes, and confirms that the mushroom grew in a neighboring greenhouse. The girl beams with joy. The boy asks Himari if it's okay to take it outside. She says yes, because strict conditions are only needed during the growing stage. They go into the greenhouse. Masato apologizes for keeping them waiting and shows them the mushroom. The girl looks at him in admiration. Small mushrooms stick out of the ground, the fruiting body of which is used as a miraculous cure for certain diseases. Himari carefully picks one of the mushrooms and holds it carefully in her hands. She thanks the guy and says that even just one mushroom can become a very effective medicine. He replies that they will find a good use for the rest. The boy asks her how they will prepare the medicine, but the girl says that he got all the necessary ingredients and she will do the rest herself. The boy suggests that in this world it is something like potion making, and Himari puts on gloves. As they fly away, Masato says he has one more request for Himari. The guy tells him that he needs to collect hops. She is crushing everything she needs in a mortar. There is a device next to her, and she is holding a flask with a solution in her hand. From the outside, it looks like a chemistry experiment. The guy imagines something different and now looks at what is happening with surprise. Masato looks at Himari's confident actions and notes that she is so agile that it makes one forget that she is a dragon. He thinks that if he had taken his experiments at the university as seriously as she did, he would have been in the White Company. Then he thinks he's just joking. At that moment, the guy smells a strange odor and realizes with horror what such a strong stench could mean. He immediately casts an extended detox range and evaluates the gas, which is a powerful biological weapon and is lethal to humans even in small doses. The boy nervously asks Himari to be careful when handling such a terribly poisonous gas, otherwise it could end in disaster. She apologizes and says that she forgot how resistant dragons are. Masato says that this is too dangerous and uses high-level architecture to create a fume hood to safely handle the harmful gases. He insistently asks her to continue working using him, and the girl apologizes again. The guy thinks that now he can relax and is glad that he managed to avoid danger due to his high characteristics. 3 hours pass. Himari sits down on the grass, holding a small bottle in her hands, and announces that she is finally finished. She happily asks the guy for more of the drink that was produced at the factory, and he compliments her by pouring beer into her mug. She drinks contentedly while Masato marvels at the dragon's resilience. He excitedly explains that he wants to do something else. He asks if she is going to take the medicine to her mother right away. She agrees and adds that she would like to introduce her mother to the person who grew the alhadeki mushroom, so she invites him to come with her. He thinks about the offer and then realizes that since this is a new world, he wants to visit more places, and so he agrees. The girl thanks him and they fly away towards her home. They fly to the mountain and go down. The guy assumes that this is the mountain where her mother is. There is snow around them. The girl says that she does not feel the cold because of her vitality. They walk through the forest, and the hero says that one would have been lost long ago. The trees around them shimmer and shimmer, which amazes Masato. He can't believe that the tree is shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, and it does this because it reacts to a person at a distance of more than 1,000 meters. This is an artificial plant created on the basis of the genome of an ancient dragon. He asks if her mother is an ancient dragon. She agrees and explains that this modified species was a failed attempt to create a mushroom substitute through numerous experiments that her mother conducted. She points in different directions, where there are strange and more unfortunate examples. The boy understands that her mother was not just idly waiting for her time to come. The girl notices that he is thinking. They reach a cave. Huge icicles hang from the ceiling. Himari says that her mother is inside and leads him deeper into the cave where there is a bed. The woman lies on the bed and, when they approach, she wearily opens her eyelids. The girl happily turns to Masato. She recognizes her daughter's voice and knows she has returned. The woman reaches out a trembling hand and Himari steps closer, taking it in her own. She smiles, carefully holding her hand in hers, and says with a smile that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Her gaze does not find her daughter, and Masato assumes that the disease of the white mages has deprived her of her sight. The girl asks her mother why she is not in the form of a dragon. She, pointing to the device next to her, says that in this form the load on it is less. It's a magical hemodialyzer created by a dragon that helps him purify his blood and can extend his life by 10 years. The guy is impressed by the device, but he understands that it's not enough for dragons. The woman says that this is the best she can do. Himari squeezes her hand tighter and the woman asks what's wrong. The girl explains that she made a miracle cure that will heal her. Her mother is shocked by this news. She asks in surprise how she created it, and her daughter replies that she did it strictly according to the recipe. The girl introduces Masato and says that he was the one who grew the alhidaic mushroom. The guy apologizes for the late introduction and gives his full name, noting that he is a farmer. The woman cannot believe that a person could grow this mushroom because it is impossible. Himari knows it's shocking but asks her mother to drink it. She descends to him from the air, holding hops in her hands, and informs him that she has brought what he asked for. The woman agrees and takes the medicine. She opens her eyes in surprise, realizing that she can see again. She takes a blood sample and shakes the syringe a little. Based on the test, the woman concludes that she has fully recovered. The guy is amazed to note that the medicine cured her in the blink of an eye and recognizes the syringe as the same thing that is used to inject adrenaline into muscles during anaphylaxis. Himari rushes to hug her and with tears in her eyes says that she is very happy. The woman, hugging her back, tenderly apologizes for making her worry. The guy is glad that everything worked out. The woman thanks him for saving her life and apologizes for doubting him. He replies that he is always willing to help. She looks at him and says that now that her sight has returned, she understands that he has tamed the dryads and is amazed that someone could do such a thing. The woman shares that she has no idea of the extent of his powers. She asks Himari how she met such a person. The guy answers for her that many things happened to him, after which he got lost in the forest and the girl found him and brought him to the city, so they became friends. The girl adds that they were not at odds at the beginning and the guy is indignant. The woman, looking at them, understands that thanks to their chance meeting, her life was saved. Himari shows his open palms, which contain 2 fruits, and asks what he is going to do with the hops. The girl's mother recalls that he talked about being a farmer and asking him to follow her because she wanted to give him something suitable. They go out and see a piece of land floating in the air. The guy asks in amazement what it is. The woman says that it is a floating continent and she gives it to him in gratitude for the alhidaic mushroom. The girl is amazed that her mother had something like this. The boy asks how to use it and she tells him to climb on it, which he does. Then she tells him to fill the island with mana. The boy analyzes that he now has 1,500 points. He decides to start with 5,000 and pours it into the floating earth. It starts shaking. And then the guy sees that the island has turned into a huge territory. He screams in fear that he put too much magic and the cave and the mountain were buried. The woman assures him that everything is fine and he will understand everything when he comes down. The guy jumps off the hovering ground and turns around. It is the same size as before. The girl's mother says that when you fill the island with magic, its internal dimensions expand so that even if, standing on it, you see its immense dimensions, outwardly it remains the same. The soil on it is also suitable for farming. She promises that he will achieve great success with it. He asks if he can really take such an incredible object. The woman says she created it when she was trying to grow a mushroom and now that she is healthy she no longer needs it so he can safely accept it. Masato thanks her, and she notes that she has one more thing she wants to give him. She enthusiastically suggests that since it was his idea, it is definitely something out of the ordinary. He confirms her words and thinks that she was not mistaken. She entrusts him with a large dark seed from the world tree and says that it must be in the possession of the one who tamed the dryads. The dryads immediately happily offer the guy to grow it, and he himself asks the woman again to clarify. She confirms that this is the seed of the world tree. She explains that this is the dryad's favorite tree and tells about its fruits. The woman says that the fruits of this tree can help these little spirits reach great heights. The guy is amazed by the information he received. He thinks that he didn't quite understand what great heights she meant, but decides that he needs to plant it and see. He plants it in the ground in his garden and uses rain with growth accelerator. The seed sprouts and a small green branch emerges from the ground. The woman is surprised and says that it usually takes 100 years for it to grow. Himari explains that he used a growth enhancer. The guy notes that he has a long way to go, but he will do his best to grow it. Masato thanks the woman for everything, but she brushes it off, saying that it is a small price to pay for him saving her life. The dryads and Himari watch the sprout while the hero looks into the distance. He realizes that he has received incredible things. The guy enthusiastically thinks that he has long wanted to plant all kinds of crops, and now, finally, he will be able to do it. He thinks about all the things he can make, considering that he bought yeast from the bakery and now has most of the ingredients. He thinks excitedly about soy sauce, wheat flour, and beer. His friends stand next to him and he can't wait to see what the future holds for them. He also thinks about how to explain to Carol why he needs so many seeds when he goes to buy them. Masato, Himari, and her mother stand at the edge of a cliff. The woman tells him to calm down and think about the island. He concentrates the energy in his hands and thinks about imagining the island he wants to create. Stones from the cliff begin to fly and connect in the air. A small floating island hovers near them. Himari shouts that he succeeded. The woman says that everything went well and he can now create as many islands as he needs, invisible outside the continent. She notes that the spatial expansion effect disappears when they are taken outside the continent. She adds that he can take it as it is, and what's more, he can change the geology of the continent. Here, a dark liquid begins to ooze from the depths of the island. And now, a column of black liquid bursts out from the middle. Himari is shocked. The girl thinks it's a failure, but Masato reassures her that he was just thinking about an oil field. She asks why, and he raises his hand to cast a spell. He uses advanced alchemy, and the pouring oil begins to turn into plastic bottles. The girl notes with admiration that, judging by the expression on his face, he is about to cook something delicious, and says that she can't wait to try it. The little flying man with the sprout is also excited. Masato reassures her. Himari looks at the clear bottle in surprise, and the guy explains to her what it is. The woman is amazed and says that she didn't think that the first thing he would make would be these containers. Himari proudly notes that she is not surprised at all. Masato says that he will make more of these while they are there, and the girl asks why they are needed at all. They come to the factory and he uses time management on the soy sauce and beer. The guy says that the preparation is complete and there is only a little bit left. Himari speaks before him about pouring everything into containers. Masato agrees and notes that it will be easier to deliver the goods. The guy says they had to take soil from the islands to mass-produce glass bottles. If they had taken it from a vacant lot, there would have been a fuss about the hole. The girl watches, fascinated, as the bottles are filled on the conveyor belt. Watching the bottles fill evenly, the girl dozes off. The boy approaches her and she opens her eyes. Himari says she's going home and sleeps and tells the boy not to make mistakes. Masato takes note of this and wonders if he's ever made a mistake. The hero does the calculations and finds that 10,555 bottles of soy sauce and 102,800 bottles of beer were produced. He imagines selling 10,000 bottles of soy sauce and 100,000 bottles of beer. Then he thinks about how many boxes Carol will have and decides to deliver everything with the Wyvern card and uploads everything there through the portal. Already in the guild, the girl says that she understood what he meant and thanks the guy for giving her the precious card. The guy notes that he hasn't finished cooking yet because there is a missing element. The girl cools down a bit. Masato clarifies that there is no need to call an appraiser because this is the product they tried the other day. The girl is surprised by the unusual bottles he used for the sauce, that they are soft and bend. The guy explains that they are made of plastic. The guy says that because the bottle is soft, it won't break even if it falls. The girl notes that it's very convenient. Carol says she can only sell them through Cole and that she'll put the map in storage until he gets back. The guy starts talking about how much oats and soybeans he's going to plant now. The girl stops him, saying that this is a lot, and asks if his field was only 1 hectare in size. The guy was not surprised that she knew about this and explained that he was given the land. He tells all the information about the floating continent so that Carol can't keep up with his train of thought and ends up saying that its size is 50 hectares. The girl understood almost nothing of what he explained, but decided not to focus on it, while noting that he always explains everything very accessibly. She asks him if he wants to buy anything else now that he has more land. The guy says he wants more carrots, potatoes, onions, burdock root, and taro, 8 hectares each. The girl agrees. After that, he canceled the lease and even took a little more money because the soil quality had improved. He was able to buy seeds at a fairly low price. The boy returns to his floating island with Himari. The hero says with a smile that there are other fish in that place and takes something out of the portal to the storage, asking to process it too. The merchants are amazed by what they see and do not understand what is in front of them. He takes out a dubbing card with stained glass diamond patterns on it. Himari asks him what he's going to copy. She says that she brought the ashes he asked for, and the dryads are also determined to do their best. Masato thanks them for their help. They begin to sow and water the area. As a result, they get beautiful, large, and well-groomed fields. While his friends are happy with the work done, the guy thinks that although the fields are ready, the growth enhancer he uses won't cover them all, so something more powerful is needed. He realizes that he will have to go deeper into the dungeon. They go to the dungeon. Masato takes the sword with him and uses the spell Penetration with 0 physical attack. He asks Dryad if it would be best to do so, as using other magic could destroy the dungeon. He turns his attention to Himari, who is standing near the entrance, and asks if she is okay. She replies doubtfully that she is fine. Himari shouts that they are on the 90th floor and this choice is just crazy. The guy replies that he does not see a problem and wanted to start from the 160th. The girl says that she will not survive in human form and asks for insurance or to let her wait. She looks away sadly, and the guy opens the control panel. He casts a complex enhancement spell on her. With this card, Masato creates a large greenhouse. Himari feels her body overflowing with power and asks the boy what it is. He replies that, judging by the name, it is a buff that enhances all abilities. The guy says that even if something happens to him, the buff will last for some time, so he asks her to help if anything happens. The girl actively agrees. They reach the 100th floor. Something attracts the hero's attention. A huge octopus sits on the floor and looks at them. The heroes come face to face with the monster. Himari feels that each tentacle is emitting an ominous aura. The boy has already taken a fighting stance and is preparing to attack. He leaps up and slices the octopus's head in two with one powerful blow. The monster is defeated and the hero lands on the ground. Himari excitedly says that she can see shadows of his movements thanks to the buff. The hero asks if that's really impressive. She says that she would like to see an enemy that can defeat Masato. He notes that the monster is much stronger than the one from the 80th floor. The girl calls the greenhouse a vinyl house and asks what he will plant in it. The guy replies that he has something in mind. An object drops from the monster. The hero recognizes something familiar in it. This item turns out to be a super magical computer calculator that can calculate anything and can be used even by beginners. The boy is visited by sad memories from his past world. Masato falls to the ground in shock, and thoughts of what in this world an object from his past life is doing while he's in the midst of enjoying his second life flash through his mind. Himari doesn't know what to do. The girl wonders what this strange object is that knocked the guy down with one blow. He says that everything is fine and explains that it used to be a formidable enemy but is now a useful magical item. Masato notes that there will be great hopes for this item in the future. Something approaches the heroes from the depths of the floor. It is a large dark figure with the outlines of an angel. A demon in human form appears before them with large black wings behind his back and a frightening halo. This was Lucifer's divine test. The demon raises his hand. He has dark long hair and empty eyes. Masato jumps on the creature, raising his sword to attack. He thinks that there shouldn't be people on this floor, but decides to deal with it anyway. He drips a couple of drops from a pipette onto the ground to help it grow quickly, but the amount of the ingredient starts to increase too quickly. He also hits the demon with a few blows and lands calmly. This monster also drops an item. It is an elixir of immortality that can only be taken by heads of state. Its effect can last forever if the government is good and ends instantly if the government is bad. The guy reasons that the elixir is completely useless for him, and in a country where there is no state, no one will be able to drink it. He decides to sell it to the guild later. The dryad thinks about something. They continue walking further down the floor, and at some point the guy feels danger remaining behind the column. Giant translucent bears walk past them on the floor. The girl and the boy watch them from cover. Masato notes that the walls are visible through them. Himari explains that these are monsters without essence, which only materialize when they attack and can only be defeated by counterattacking. He takes note of the information and is glad that he went with Himari, because thanks to her explanations, he doesn't feel so scared. He mentally bets on his sword and runs out of hiding. The girl tries to stop him. The guy makes a few moves with his sword and the bears are defeated. Himari looks at what is happening in shock. She asks how he managed to cripple them. The guy reminds her that he now has physical attack, nullification, penetration. Masato finds himself in a large pile of koji. Himari asks him what it is. Surprised, he replies that it is an ingredient for making a condiment called soy sauce. The girl says that this ability should only work on monsters that can get rid of physical attacks, so she doesn't understand how it worked on disembodied monsters. The guy suggests that the concept was expanded. Himari suggests that even an experienced blacksmith can handle it. The boy replies that if there are no people, there will be no trade. She draws the boy's attention to another item that has fallen. The object turns out to be a case for Schrödinger cards, the contents of which are not determined until it is opened. It contains 100 cards of the same type, and once the contents are determined, they will not change. A list of card appearance probabilities appears in front of him. Masato recognizes the Wyvern card and the Dub card among them. He is happy that he will now be able to duplicate amplifiers instead of hunting for them in the dungeon. The girl doubts that this is convenient. Himari notes that getting the right card depends on luck, meaning even if he draws 5 cards, it is not a given that he will get the right one. The hero thinks about it. He believes that this problem can be solved with the skill, random number adjustment. The girl can't believe her eyes. The guy approaches the case and casts a spell. It activates the random number adjustment skill and analyzes possible variations. The guy looks at all the options in front of him, and now he can choose the one he wants. The hero chooses a dubbing card. The girl asks in surprise how this can turn into a gas station. The guy gets out of the pile and says that for this they need to prepare one more thing and asks her to fly to the city for a short while. Once everything is ready, he is convinced that this is a great skill. Himari, holding the card, tries to believe that it's just a coincidence. Masato decides to move on to the Wyvern card. He uses the skill again and has a whole set. The girl looks at the cards with admiration and reasons that this is definitely a skill effect and not a coincidence. Masato decides to choose the rest of the cards as dubbing cards. Himari says that now the number of powerful amplifiers can be increased. Despite this, the girl notes that they have not yet found the key amplifier. The guy hopes that it will fall on the next floor. The heroes move to the 161st floor of the dungeon and go deeper. There they see a giant incarnation of the heavenly dragon. The guy notes that this is a monster, a dragon, and thinks that if it were an ordinary dragon he would hesitate, since these creatures in this world are kind. He is glad that the dragon in front of him is something different. Masato can deal with the monster without regret, which he does, delivering a fatal blow. An object drops from the monster and finally it's what they need. The guy happily looks at the trophy. It is a growth enhancer that accelerates plant growth on an acre for 10 years, and the acceleration period can be controlled by dilution. In the city, they go to a real estate agency and are met by a salesgirl. She greets them and asks what product they came for today. Holding the jar, the guy notes that the acceleration period is long, but the area of action is too small. He says that the interval is not required, so you can use it until you win. The girl notes that this will suit the world tree. While they are discussing the trophy, they are attacked from behind by a huge clawed paw. They manage to jump back, and the paw crashes into the floor, destroying it, sending debris flying in all directions. The guy can't figure out what kind of monster it is. This is the incarnation of the heavenly dragon again, but larger and more powerful. The hero feels that he is more powerful, but assumes that it is the same type of monster. The dragon attacks again, but the hero jumps up to strike. He also makes quick work of the monster. The monster disappears, and another item appears. The heroes look at the trophy in amazement. Masato says that he doesn't need a product, but a vacant lot. The salesgirl says she'll be happy to help and provides a catalog. This time, they get a growth booster that speeds up the growth of 400 hectares of plants for a year. The guy says that this is what he needs, because if he covers such a large distance and increases the period by a year, he can get even more vegetables. The heroes joyfully exclaim that with the help of these two amplifiers they will grow a great harvest and the world tree. Masato suggests going back to the surface. The girl asks, why not hunt again? The guy reminds her that he now has the dubbing cards. He says goodbye to Himari and decides to test his stats. After analyzing everything, he comes to the conclusion that they have risen significantly and asks the Dryad to call for rain again, to which the spirit agrees. The Dryads chat with the sprout of the world tree, promising it that they will make it very, very big. Masato is troubled by the thought that he doesn't know how big the world tree can grow. He made a field with a diameter of 5 meters and worries that it might swallow him up. He decides to ask Himari's mother about it. Masato asks the woman how big the world tree grows. She replies that if we are talking about the place where it will take root, the diameter should be between 30 and 36 meters, but notes that it is still a long way off. The guy says he found a powerful growth stimulant. The woman realizes he thinks he can make the tree bear fruit by the end of the day and can't believe it's that simple. The hero turns to the Dryads and asks them to cover the entire sky above the floating continent with rain clouds and spray the amplifier. He notes that the world tree should be avoided for now. Himari asks him about the wasteland. The boy thinks that now that he has all the ingredients, he needs to build a factory and is happy that he can use the spell highest level architecture again. The spirits do exactly as he asked them to, creating clouds around the site of the sprout. Everything around the hero in the bed starts to grow. The guy is shocked by how amazingly fast this is happening. He notes that the onions, for example, have already grown. He stands up and signals to them that where he is standing it is already watered enough and they can move on to the rest of the area. The spirits and Masato work together to feed and water the beds and harvest the crops. After everything has risen, he thanks the Dryads for their help. They look at the huge harvest they have collected, where there are different kinds of vegetables. The guy opens the control panel and counts the amount. They manage to collect 52 tons of wheat, 10.8 tons of soybeans, 32 tons of carrots, 36 tons of potatoes, 456 tons of onions, 176 burdocks, and 704 taro. Dryad notes that this is really great. The boy says that now they need to spread the tops with rain and fertilize the soil. He warns them not to accidentally fall with the decomposing rain on the world tree. The Dryad promises that everything will be fine. They say that the world tree is special and that it is okay if it rains. They demonstrate this to him by making it rain, but the guy stops them. Masato takes out a supercomputer from storage to check something. The screen reads, "Welcome to the encyclopedia." The guy feels a reassuring sense of déjà vu. The guy finds what he needs and says he wants this plot. The saleswoman replies that it will cost 3.2 million ether. He types information about the world tree and the Dryad's decaying cloud into a search engine. The computer reports that when a small amount of such rain falls, plants decompose and the nutrients from them are immediately absorbed, which contributes to the growth of the world tree. The sprout has grown even larger. Now it is a seedling. The Dryad reports that everything is back to normal, and the boy praises them for their work. He says that he wants to water the tree with the booster, but advises the Dryads to rest if they are tired because he does not want to overload them. The spirits convince him that everything is fine and they will cope. Masato smiles and motivates everyone to work hard together. The Dryads make it rain by flying over the sapling. Nourished by rain and growth enhancer, the tree begins to grow at an incredible rate. The boy is amazed by its speed. At one moment it is a sprout, and at another a huge trunk stretches upward. It grows fully and spreads its branches full of green foliage. The large tree occupies almost the entire territory of the floating island. The guy says it's so big that other plants can't get enough light, but he notices that the underside of the leaves glows red, which is in the range of light that green leaves can absorb most easily. Masato realizes that the world tree is saying that it wants to coexist with other plants. A giant tentacle emerges from the storage. The traders assume it is a squid and are amazed by its size. She tells him that he can take it on credit and asks if he has a guarantor, adding that the guy can also leave the item as collateral. They look at the tree with admiration, and then the dryad draws his attention to something else. The spirits begin to fly among the branches, reporting that they have succeeded and the fruits of the tree have ripened. Large, round fruits hang from the branches, ready to be picked. Masato mentally notes that he doesn't have much money on hand and says that he will take the plot on credit. He offers the card as collateral and the saleswoman agrees and then, turning her attention to it, is very surprised. She takes the Wyvern transport card and nervously notes that there are only 5 of them in the world, wondering why he would use something so valuable as collateral. He replies that it's the only thing that would work. Himari stands next to him with a face that shows that she is very pleased with herself, because she has already gotten used to Masato's absurdities and therefore is not surprised. They leave the building, and from there, they hear the desperate voice of the salesgirl, who does not know where to keep such an important thing now. They head to the vacant lot. They reach the spot, and the guy decides it's perfect. Himari asks how exactly the guy is going to make the filling. Masato raises his hand to cast a spell. He uses the spell, high-level architecture, and a pillar of light appears in the place where they are. Masato focuses on the need to imagine the structure of the plant. He imagines the first floor being used for drying and cleaning wheat, the second for grinding wheat into flour, the third for making soy sauce, and the fourth for brewing beer. He is grateful that as a graduate he looked into food production for work and still remembers the equipment and processes involved. The guy is worried that he might cause problems. The merchant asks to look into his storage. After examining the monster, he recognizes its bluish ears and amber eyes. On a vacant lot, a guy creates a tall building. Himari stands with her eyes closed, thinking that even though something amazing is happening, she's so used to Masato's antics that nothing can shock her anymore. Then she opens her eyes and freezes in shock. She looks at the large multi-story factory in amazement and, pointing at it, asks what it is. Masato, pleased with his work, says that each floor is built with care and that the preparations are complete. The girl still does not understand. Himari asks in surprise if this is preparation. The guy says that they will start working here after the wheat harvest, in 2 days, and asks if she can come to the field by then. The guy wants to show her how the process will go. The girl enthusiastically agrees. Some time passes. A guy in a greenhouse with alkadake mushrooms uses a growth enhancer on a mushroom for the 3rd time. Himari, sitting next to him, notes that the mushroom has already grown. The boy says contentedly that it has grown so much that it can be seen with the naked eye. The girl with a serious face mentally begs her mother to wait a little longer. Masato asks the little flying man with the sprout if it is possible to mix a growth enhancer into the rain, which he eagerly confirms. They do so, creating a special rain. He realizes it's a kraken and is surprised that such a thing is even possible. Wheat in the field grows very quickly and is already eared after some time. Masato is delighted to think that she is already ready for harvest, but decides to look at the grade first. The assessment states that wheat has a low glycemic index. Its carbohydrates can be absorbed without insulin, which significantly reduces the spike in blood sugar levels. It can be consumed by diabetics, and it tastes amazing. The guy says that for food, these are incredible qualities, and there is even a note about the taste. Himari says that it is all thanks to Dryad. The small floating man smiles shyly. They walk among the wheat, collecting it all together. Masato thanks everyone for their help and says it's time to go to the factory. Himari is happy that they will use the mechanism that is mysterious to her. On the first floor of the drying and cleaning, they pour wheat into a special machine, to the girl's surprised exclamations. The guy explains that the mechanism will automatically dry and clean it. The girl finds it difficult to understand the working process of this machine. The guy asks her thoughtful face if everything is okay, and then says that everything is ready and they need to assemble it. He opens the storage and counts the amount. Masato says that they got 7.3 tons, and it shouldn't have been even 5 tons per hectare. Himari asks if Dryad helped with that too. She smiles sheepishly again. The guy happily exclaims that this is enough, and now they need to start processing. They need to load the ingredients on each floor. Next to Dryad, there are now people like her floating. Himari also listens to Masato, although it is hard for her. The girl asks doubtfully if they will wait until the mechanisms do everything automatically. The guy confirms her words. The hero says that he simply knocked him out, paralyzing his nervous system. The merchant nervously asks if the guy is really human. The hero does not understand such a reaction, and the girl with horns standing nearby explains that the kraken is a legendary monster. Himari finds it very difficult to understand his logic and asks if they are really cooking. The guy offers to explain again. He explains that each floor is responsible for different processes. The fourth floor houses the fermentation tank and the filtration system for beer. There is also Moromi, a starter for sauce and sock, and the third floor houses the Moromi tank and compressor. The guy adds that there is an automated drying and cleaning machine on the first floor. Himari asks in surprise if this isn't an excessive scale of production. She marvels at how cooking could lead to revolutionary equipment. The guy asks her if she would enjoy doing that kind of thing. Masato confidently notes that it is better not to pore over the process, but to wait for the final result. The guy adds that the food will be simply incredibly delicious. Masato assumes that the preparations for the shoyu-koji are complete. The girl excitedly asks if everything is ready and they, along with Dryad, are already ready to try it. The guy dashes their hopes by noting that the product needs another year to mature. They were already upset, but the hero says that he found a skill that will allow them not to wait so long. He takes the bottle of product and uses a time control spell on it. She adds, addressing the boy by name, that to him it's just a big squid, but a normal person would never be able to handle it with their bare hands. Masato understands what's going on. After the impact, the liquid in the bottle turns black. Himari is very surprised. The girl notices with concern that it is darkened and asks if this means it has gone bad. The guy thinks about how to answer her correctly. Masato explains that soy sauce should look like this after it's been steeped. The girl calms down but notes that it's strange to use time management for such purposes. She explains that this spell stops all movement for a certain period of time and is not something that can be used to rewind years. The guy listens carefully, and then notes that, judging by the state of the sauce, he somehow managed to rewind time by a whole year. The girl and Dryad are amazed by this fact. The boy tells Himari that she shouldn't be so surprised. She wonders why he needs a growth enhancer if he can do something like this. He agrees but has something to add. He explains that the two skills have different effects. While the growth booster speeds up the plant's growth rate, time control only speeds up time, causing the plant to wilt. The girl notices that the guy is transferring the liquid to another container. Now they have raw soy sauce, of which the guy still left a little, so he says that there is one more step left, boiling, which they do. With glowing eyes, Himari is already flying to try it and Dryad is with her. The guy stops them and reproachfully tells the girl that she is too impatient. She gets upset, and the guy says that there is still a little bit left, adding that he has some things to do in the fresh air. The guy starts to say that the kraken might be too big to cut up, but the merchant interrupts him, saying that it's not a problem and asks to let them do the job because this monster is a real delicacy. Masato extends his hand forward, preparing to cast a spell. Using advanced alchemy, he creates bottles. The guy creates a lot of bottles, and Himari asks why he needs so many. Masato notes with satisfaction that they will pour into them what is being prepared on the fourth floor. They arrive at the place. The fermentation tank contains the wort. After using time control, the young beer is infused there. Then you need to reduce the temperature and repeat the spell. After this process, the guy explains that they filter the liquid and bottle it. Himari notes that this is the first time she has seen such a drink. The hero assures her that it is very tasty and asks her to be patient for a little while. The guy says that next is collecting flour on the second floor. He apologizes for having to wait a long time, but Himari is not upset and is already ready to start work. The guy puts on an apron, but then, noticing the girl, he notices that she has also changed her clothes and put her hair in a ponytail. He asks her the reason. The girl excitedly says that she wants to see the secret of his first-class cuisine up close. Shindo suggests trying something. Another character agrees. Shindo mentions that the 14 dryads have received special abilities related to animal husbandry. Masato thanks them for their help and points out that all that remains is to grow the plants. The hero states that before they start work, something needs to be done. They notice a water field that is ideal for growing rice. Masato asks the dryad to cover the sky with ordinary clouds. Sylphide agrees to the plan. The hero notices that they look like Japanese rice. Imi says that the grains have become larger and notes that this is different from the previous state. The girl can't wait to try this rice, but Masato says that it's too early to serve this rice with food, although he wants to too. The young man thinks that everything looks promising. On the table are different types of rice, Amilo 5, Amilo 13, Amilo 17, and Amilo 23. The hero declares that the rice is perfectly cooked. The girls remark that the rice looks very appetizing and ask if they can try it. Masato suggests starting with Amilo 5. He expresses satisfaction, saying that this is exactly what he was missing. He explains that some creatures have gained special abilities related to animal husbandry. The girls happily note that they have created something amazing and elastic. However, Masato notes that the result is definitely better than before, but still not perfect. Since the current version is too sticky, he suggests trying rice with a higher amylose content. Imi asks him what kind of rice he liked the most. The hero points to the rice, calling it Amilo 17. He notes that the variety tastes like koshihikari rice. Masato tells Sylphid to turn all the sprouts into this particular type of rice. The hero admires the improved selection, considering it a great power. He admits that as a former student, he really likes this idea. He talks about scientific progress that was previously impossible, such as creating crops that are resistant to pests and don't make you cry when you cut them. The girls express surprise, and the hero explains that he just realized the importance of this process. If you improve delicious food, won't it become worse? The hero declares that, at the wish of the sylphs, he became the head of the country of the sylphs. The hero shows matsutake mushrooms, dismissing artificial cultivation and emphasizing their rarity. He says that these mushrooms are elite, with a wonderful aroma and taste. Masato is thinking about growing mushrooms in large quantities. The girl suggests using the power of the sylphs. She wonders how much can be collected. Imi says that mushrooms can be found on the mountain. He recalls that they used to gather wild plants on this mountain. The hero agrees, pointing out that the chances are high, given the abundance of local plants. Masato asks how the girls got ready so quickly. The hero notices a tree and is surprised, asking if it is a red pine. He uses a microscope to evaluate the matsutake mushroom, which has a unique aroma and flavor. This species grows only on living red pine trees. The young man suggests taking mycelium and a red pine branch to improve the mushroom. He explains that it will help in advanced alchemy. The hero launches a genome editor on the computer and begins to analyze genetic information. He says that now it is necessary to work on nutrition. He chooses mycorrhiza as the mushroom's way of feeding. The hero says that's why they are so rare. He recommends the use of the imperial elixir that was previously found. He also mentions two main types of fungi, saprotrophs and mycorrhiza. Masato explains that mycorrhiza is a fungal system that attaches itself around tree roots and sucks nutrients from them. The young man notes that there will now be a lot of mushrooms thanks to mycorrhiza. Imi points out that if you make them saprophytes instead of mycorrhiza, you can grow more mushrooms. The girl asks the hero to hand over control of the process to her. Then you need to ask Sylph to improve the mycelium. Then he plans to send the grown mycelium to the floating continent. The hero adds a growth enhancer until the mushrooms ripen in the greenhouse. Masato suggests that by dividing the grown mycelium, mushroom blocks can be made for sewing. They are surprised how mushrooms can be obtained from a wooden blank. The hero explains that the red pine will be used to grow mushrooms. Then they will plant a branch of red pine. Masato proposes to speed up the growth of red pine by 30 years with the help of a booster and a blessed rain cloud. Once they have processed the trunk and received 7 logs, the hero declares that the preparation for cultivation is complete after that. The young man quickly gathers the logs together and creates holes for the blanks. Then he waters them with rainwater with a booster. The girls express admiration upon noticing the abundance of mushrooms. Shindo learns that the effect of the elixir is immortality. If you rule well, the effect lasts forever. If you rule poorly, the elixir loses its power. He wonders if it is worth using the elixir, since tomatoes, which give eternal youth without side effects, may be safer. The hero proposes to harvest the crops together and announces that 2 more cycles of growing and harvesting are needed to complete the process. Masato expresses satisfaction with the amount of harvested crop. The girls rejoice at the successful harvest. The young man thanks everyone for their help and confirms that 276 pieces will be enough for their needs. Sylphide suggests starting to prepare dinner. The hero explains that today they will be using a charcoal grill to cook food. The girl asks in surprise why pure coal and beer. He suggests putting coal inside the grill and extracting alcohol from the beer. And set it all on fire with fire magic. Matsutake mushrooms from dirt, removing the hard part and making cuts on the cap. Matsutake mushrooms are finally being prepared. Masato deploys the barrier. They note that 5 layers of protective barriers are used. The hero explains that these barriers reflect heat but allow air to pass through, making them ideal for growing mushrooms. The girl starts to cry. The girl is surprised that only Masato-san cooks using protective barriers. He agrees, adding that the liquid evaporates thanks to this method. The boy and the other characters notice that the food looks delicious and ready to eat. The hero demonstrates the correct way to tear apart a stalk of food. Other characters express admiration for the aroma. Masato notes the food's texture and rich flavor. The hero admits that he is happy. The girls notice that the hero eats slowly and ask if the food is too tasteless. The girls happily describe the food as delicious and crispy. Masato exclaims happily, expressing enthusiasm and offering to roast 10 more servings with beer. Imi also mentions that they have started working on the rice on the floating continent and are now facing a new challenge. The girl thanks the hero for agreeing to help, noting his high energy level. The hero explains that he wants to accumulate seed rice to grow a Milo 17 on a large scale to reap a large harvest. He claims that they will be able to prepare many dishes from rice. The dryads begin to go to bed. They resolutely agree to help, stating that their drowsiness seems to have disappeared. The hero estimates that several portions of seed rice, approximately 6,003 grains from 1,500 bushes, will be needed to grow rice. He suggests starting with the existing plant and gradually increasing the quantity. Masato creates an impenetrable barrier. Sylphid notices a large box. A young man explains the process of germination of seed rice. First, the rice is sown in water at a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius. Then after 10 days the temperature is raised to 30 degrees Celsius to stimulate growth. The hero rejects the offer to grow rice in an ordinary field. He suggests changing the soil to make it suitable for rice. Masato suggests growing the rice to 15 centimeters, after which it can be transplanted along with the roots. The girls agree with the plan. He suggests watering the plants with blessed rain using a growth enhancer. Wait until the ears ripen and then harvest. Masato plans to repeat the process, clean the seeds, and process them at the plant. The hero shows the results, a total of 997 grains from 3,907 bushes. The hero rejoices at his success, declaring that the rice will be ready for consumption starting from the next harvest. However, he notices that there is a small problem. They say they can still stand on their feet and stress that the situation is under control. They lie down and go into sleep mode with their eyes closed. The hero agrees to the proposal and declares that this is encouraging. He specifies that the last rice harvest for today has already been collected. The girl notices that almost all the land is now covered with rice. Sylphide encourages everyone to try harder. The hero and the girl express satisfaction with the work done. Masato notes that the workload was too great. He proposes to build a building for storing crops. Imi expresses amazement at the unusual building in front of them. Masato demonstrates a high level of architecture. The hero announces that they will now begin manufacturing agricultural machinery, using time manipulation to speed up the process. Sylphide notices how quickly the construction is progressing. Masato proudly presents the finished combine. Imi asks in surprise what kind of device it is. The boy explains that it is a rice harvesting machine. Masato replies that the harvester is equipped with AI and can move on its own. The girls don't know how it works or what exactly it is. The hero thanks everyone for their efforts and encourages them to have a good rest. Imi states that it is enough to know that it is a useful device. The hero uses time manipulation to speed up the process of assembling the machine. The machine harvests 400 hectares of crops in a few seconds. Masato happily notes the result and thanks everyone for their help. The girl asks the hero what kind of device this is. Imi says that her mother can come. Masato doesn't mind. The girl happily reports that her mother wants to thank the hero again for the food he prepared for her recovery. They suggest postponing the conversation until later if the hero is tired, but he replies that he feels well and is ready to continue the conversation. Masato expresses his gratitude, adding that he had long wanted to thank the girl's mother. Thanks to Himari's mother, the hero was able to achieve success in Japanese cuisine. Himari immediately wants to tell everything to her mother, but the young man asks her to wait. The girl turns to Masato. The hero offers to pass the buff through Sylphid. The girl wakes up and notices that the hero is going somewhere. She asks in surprise where he is going, and Shindo answers that he needs to do something important. It activates Complex Enhancement. Himari is surprised that the hero took care of such details. Masato states that it is not difficult for him and thanks him for his help. The girl asks what exactly they will cook. The hero notes that they now have a lot of ingredients and suggests thinking of what to cook. First, 5 portions must be made. The hero begins the process of cooking rice, salting the water, pouring the rice into a pot and soaking it for an hour using time control. Then he says to cook 20 matsutake mushrooms the same way as the night before. Masato adds some alcohol, soy sauce, and umami to the pot of rice. Once the rice is cooked, add the matsutake mushrooms on top and cover the pan with a lid. He then mixes vegetable oil, beaten eggs, and vinegar while he works on another dish. The hero takes the boar meat out of storage, slices it crosswise, and sprinkles it with salt. At this time, he also peels the onion and slices it thinly, then mixes the mayonnaise, miso, and soy sauce separately. He heats the pan and fries the onion over medium heat. When the onion becomes translucent, he adds the meat. Masato reduces the heat and adds the mayonnaise, miso, and soy sauce mixture to the pan. Once all the ingredients are mixed, the dish is ready. Himari remarks that she did not expect the process to take only 30 minutes, and marvels at the power of the spell used. The hero is pleased that the dish was a success and invites his mother in. The hero mentions that the seeds of the world tree are capable of raising the spirit to a higher level and asks how this will work. The dryad jokingly replies that it just happened that way. The girl expresses admiration for the aroma of the dish. The hero declares that he has just finished cooking it. Masato introduces a new dish consisting of rice with matsutake mushrooms and a hot pot with miso, soy sauce, and mayonnaise. The girl expresses delight at the new recipe. The hero congratulates everyone on the beginning of the meal, wishing them bon appétit. He notes that mayonnaise and miso perfectly highlight the sweetness of the meat. The girls admire the hero's culinary skills, recognizing his mastery in cooking. Masato notices that everyone liked the dish. He suggests trying the rice with matsutake mushrooms. The hero notes that the dish is excellent thanks to the taste of matsutake mushrooms and soy sauce. Himari wonders why the rice was always so delicious. The girl says that Masato-san improved the dish. She notices that Masato-san is truly an amazing person. The heroine admits that these dishes are not strange but very tasty for her. Himari says that she heard about the high position of court chef among humans. The hero declares that now it is his turn to try and act. She offers Masato-san to become the court chef, but he declines, thanking her for the offer. He says that it would be great if people could enjoy eating Japanese food. The hero expresses his wish that Japanese food would spread and become popular among people, especially in restaurants. The hero adds that this will require the help of a professional chef. Masato expresses his desire to find a chef who could help with the current situation. The men notice that some girl has come again and are surprised by this fact. They say she has not succeeded in her career as a chef, despite the circumstances that have hampered her. The hero declares that he has accumulated enough products to sell. The older man evaluates the new cultures and infusions that the heroes have brought, offering to put them up for sale. Masato happily states that he has wanted to see them for a long time. He also mentions that he brought a map and offers to show it. The hero talks about carrots with an anti-wrinkle effect, rich in ultra-carotene. He notes that, even in old age, it will help to avoid wrinkles thanks to its excellent taste. The dryad happily notices that the continent and the island have become wider. The young man wants to do something else. He explains the properties of ultra-antibacterial onion, which protects the immune system thanks to ultra-allicin. Onion neutralizes bacteria and viruses, preventing infections and curses. Talk about potatoes with calming properties, which improve the transmission of nerve impulses thanks to ultravitamin B. Potatoes reduce stress, anger, and anxiety while maintaining excellent taste. Introduces sacred burdock, rich in fiber, which helps regulate bowel function and has a powerful fat-burning effect. Mentions power taro, rich in galactin, which enhances physical and magical power. The hero explains that alcohol for the prevention of gout is rich in negative purines, which effectively prevent gout. He also mentions the excellent taste of this drink. The restorative vinegar is rich in acid. The man expresses admiration, stating that it is all simply incredible. He notes that the taro of power not only increases stats, but also tastes good. Masato adds that although the effect may be slight, it is still noticeable. The hero asks in surprise who came up with such names as Anti-Wrinkle Carrot and Power Tarot. He says he has something else he would like to give them, and offers to try some of the food he has prepared for tasting. Masato doubts they will be liked raw. He suggests trying the raw products to see if they are worth selling. The hero introduces the dishes, rice with matsutake mushrooms, and a dish with miso. He explains that these are the main dishes on the table. When she asks what exactly he wants to make, Shindo replies that he needs vinegar and miso. The older man notes that the dish is so delicious that his soul seems to dissolve in pleasure. He describes the anti-cancer miso, rich in ultra-ethyl fatty acids, which can prevent cancer and other diseases. The girl admires the artificial matsutake mushrooms bred by the heroes. She says that these mushrooms are simply amazing and very tasty. Masato decides to start growing more of these products. The older man thanks the heroes for the delicious food and admits that the result has exceeded his expectations. The man notes that they expect even greater success from the hero. The hero asks not to talk about his unique abilities, feeling awkward. He explains that these mushrooms can be grown up to 100 times in the same place. The girl is surprised to note that growing matsutake mushrooms contradicts the laws of nature. The hero lists the various products he has brought. He offers to hand over the goods immediately. The man says that all this will be sold through the cooperative. The girl adds that the transportation cards also need to be handed over. Masato agrees. He also says to hand over 70 transportation cards. The girl notes that these are just transportation cards and not anything special. The girl is surprised to notice something unusual about the cards she is holding in her hands. Masato firmly states that he will immediately send a man to carry out the task. The girl expresses surprise when she learns about miso. She asks what it is. The older man says that he has been given a magical tracking item and that they can be used to track progress. The hero asks if the location can be determined using these maps. Masato notes that a lot of cards were given out, assuming that the guild wants all the employees to use them to sell their stock. The girl says that since they gave out a lot of cards, they are obviously waiting for a report on their sales. The girl agrees to pass on the message, sell it as soon as possible, and come back. Masato claims he will come next time when the harvest is ready. The man says they will bring something incredible. The girl waits impatiently. The hero states that he has already decided what he is going to do next. He happily discovers a place where sugarcane grows. The hero explains that they are here for one purpose. He wants to do something specific in this place. Shindo reassures the girl, telling her to wait. Both ingredients, vinegar and miso, are good. The hero explains that to make miso and vinegar, you need mold, yeast, and acetic acid bacteria. He adds that you need to select the best ones after analysis. Shindo also notices that these bacteria live in the intestines of bees. He explains that he obtained the acetic acid bacteria by dissecting an ultra honeybee from the mountains where Himari's mother lives. The hero used boosters to obtain large quantities of each ingredient and created the necessary containers on different islands. The dryad asks in surprise if he really created the bottles. The boy explains that he made them to make miso and vinegar. The girl encourages the young man to try what is offered. The hero confirms that this is what they need. This is called high-level architecture. The girl notices new mechanisms. Shindo admits that it looks like a factory and agrees that the process of making miso and vinegar will take some time. The hero is not sure that it will work in this world and decides to make some miso for himself. He explains the process of making miso, specifying the necessary ingredients: wheat 5 kg, salt 2 kg, water for soaking and cooking the soybeans, and the required amount of koji. All the ingredients are added to a container. After adding all the ingredients, they need to be mixed well. Then the mixture is cooled to the right temperature for mixing with koji. The mixture is aged for 6 months, after which the finished miso is packaged. On the 6th floor, there is vinegar production. The hero notices that the volume of vinegar production can be increased here, since all the necessary conditions have already been created. The maturation process is usually divided into 2 parts. After the koji is prepared, it is mixed with yeast. The container is heated with steam, and the mixture is aged for 50 hours. After 3 weeks, the malt syrup is ready. To obtain vinegar, it must be turned into the final product through distillation and aging. The The dryad asks why the alcoholic beverage was left behind. He notes that alcohol itself is fine too. The hero explains the process of making vinegar. You need to mix alcohol and water, add the right amount of acetic acid bacteria, and then ferment using time management. After 2 weeks, the liquid will become moderately acidic and will be ready. She says that this is gratitude for the tree, and Shindo finally agrees. He calculates the results, about 15 kilograms of oil and 7506 liters of vinegar. He happily declares that he has managed to achieve the desired result. The girl asks Masato if he is going to cook. The hero replies that he can now cook what he wanted. He expresses impatience to taste the result of his labor. Then boil the potatoes until soft, put the mixture in a bowl and mash it into a puree after that. Shindo begins a new stage of preparation by adding potato starch and salted water to the mixture. The boy adds some soy sauce and forms flat round patties. The girl notices that the food smells very nice. The girl notes that he always has a lot of creative ideas. The hero announces that now they will use all the vegetables they have collected. The burdock root is soaked in vinegar water, and the taro is boiled to remove the bitterness. The hero begins to prepare the soup. First he puts in the vegetables, which take longer to cook, then adds onion and miso. Shindo announces that the dishes are ready: potato cakes and miso soup. The hero asks Emi to try his dishes. He describes it as sweet and spicy food with a great texture. The girl expresses pleasure in the food. The young man notes that the taste is reminiscent of avocado. A young man prepares miso soup. He feels a connection to his native Japan through the taste of food. The hero remembers his hometown, experiencing wonderful feelings. The girls are delighted with the taste of the food. One of them notes that she did not know about the existence of such a dressing that improves the taste of food so much. Shindo is glad that Himari also appreciates the drink. Emi is surprised to see that she really likes the alcohol. The hero says that he doesn't have enough rice. Shindo thinks that maybe with Sylphid's breeding abilities he can do something. The hero thinks that he will finally be able to get better rice thanks to them. The girls happily note the taste of the rice they try. Emi asks who he is. The girl wonders if it's too late for that. The hero activates complex enhancement. The hero expresses satisfaction, stating that the soy sauce is perfect for the dish. He compares their movement to a jet plane, emphasizing speed and efficiency. Shindo explains that they are heading to a specific location to find the crops they need. The young man says that in order to get tasty rice, you need to find his ancestor. He states that they went deep into the tropics for this purpose. The hero shows an image of what they are looking for. Sylphide calls Masato to watch something. The hero recognizes a plant called oruza, which is a type of weed that produces starchy fruits. He realizes that this is exactly what they need. Emi suggests collecting it. The girl says that they are going to make a tasty dinner out of this plant, so they will need a lot of grass. Shindo asks the girls for help. They bring a lot of grass at once, and the hero says that this is more than enough. He explains that you need to mix the growth enhancer with water magic to grow more grass. The girl asks if they need to water it in the usual way or if they will use another method. He replies that additional watering will not be necessary and wants to know the taste of the harvested crop before deciding on the direction of selection. Shindo asks in surprise why the fairies' bodies change. The hero explains that he built a threshing and rice processing plant using a high level of architecture. Masato notices that the grains are small. The girls express confidence that the harvest is very tasty. The girls note that it is even inedible and everything inside is curdled. The hero admits that the harvest still tastes like weeds, but he sees room for improvement. He confirms Emi's words, agreeing that further improvements are needed. Shindo approaches Sylphide with a request. The hero asks to increase the size and make the rice grains more rounded for better scattering when cooking rice. The girl admits that she does not understand what exactly the hero is asking for. He wants the grains to be larger and crumble better, and explains that the amylose content needs to be reduced and the amylopectin content increased. The girl asks the hero to tell her about the product's DNA. The hero asks about DNA in surprise. The character explains that 120 dryads have been transformed into sylphs. Masato is surprised that they know about DNA here. He suggests replacing the N-threonine with guanine. The boy doubts that all this is really happening and thinks that he can eat the most delicious food. He feels a little lost, and the other characters are concerned about his condition. The hero remembers the past, when he spent many days in front of the monitor. He suggests using a super magic computer calculator. A genome editing application appears on the computer screen. The hero selects an organism and starts the process of determining genetic information. The computer displays the nucleotide sequence. The hero is surprised by what he sees, and the other characters note that they did not know about this function. Masato begins to adjust the parameters of the fruit, choosing a shape, round instead of angular. They indicate that the size of the fruit can also be changed. The girl adds that it needs to be made even bigger. The hero says that it will be more difficult to cook and suggests increasing the size of the product a little. Masato begins to research the starch content. The hero notes that the original unique abilities have been enhanced, opening up opportunities for free cultivation of agricultural crops. The results show that the total starch content is 70%, with an amylose-amylopectin ratio of 95% to 5%. The hero asks if this is true for Japanese rice and what the normal ratio should be. Masato explains that starch is made up of two components, amylose and amylopectin. More amylose makes rice less sticky, while more amylopectin makes it stickier. He mentions that Thai rice contains more amylose, while Japanese rice contains more amylopectin. The girl asks what ratio is necessary for their purpose. The hero says that they will check the results. Emi offers to compare different options and choose the best one, but Masato asks to wait. The hero shows diagrams with different ratios of amylose and amylopectin. The boy uses the instructions to change the parameters with the help of Sylph. All changes are recorded in the computer. He expresses surprise, as he has never seen anything like this before. The hero asks if this is what DNA looks like. The girls confirm that this is exactly what it looks like. The young man notices that now everyone has common genetic information. The hero asks to rewrite the genome of each of the four bundles, Amylo 23, Amylo 17, Amylo 13, and Amylo 5. The heroine happily announces that everything is ready.